My relatives demanded that I give them a family discount at my own food stall, claiming that because they're family, they deserve a discount. But after I told them that they needed to pay full price, they literally freaked out and left a 1-star review, claiming that my food was overpriced and that I had rude customer service. Here's how it all went down. So I opened a small street food stall after graduating culinary school. It's something I'd been working towards for years, testing recipes, saving up, and finally getting permits and a spot. The first week, a few cousins and an aunt showed up, and I was actually happy at first, and I really thought they came to support me. They ordered a ton of food, like enough for 5 people when there were only 3 of them. But when I gave them the bill, they all laughed at me, like literally laughed. My cousin then says, "Wait, you're charging us? We are family." But when I tried to explain that this is my actual job now, and everything I make goes back into keeping the stall running, my aunt scoffed at me and said, "Well, I guess success went to your head. I thought we were closer than that." And sure, they paid for their meal, but with so much attitude that it ruined my whole vibe that day. Well, 2 days later, I noticed that someone left a 1-star review on Google that said it was overpriced and that I had rude customer service. But when I checked the account, it was one of my cousin's email. And now I just smile when relatives say they want to swing by for a bite, because guess what? You can absolutely come by, but it's also going to be at full price. Wow, talk about super entitled. If I busted my butt in culinary school and getting a place and getting permits and literally saving up for years to do this one job, and then one of my family members pulled this crap, I think I would go crazy, bro. There's no way I would put up with that. So you're much better than me, because I definitely would have responded back tenfold, because this kind of behavior is absolutely atrocious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic job made us take a lunch break on a 5-hour workday, and despite the fact that I tried to tell them it would be more efficient to just work through the 5 hours, they denied my request and instead decided to waste everybody's time. Here's how it went down. Now, I want to start off by saying that I've always been a malicious compliance kind of guy. I also follow the rules to the letter, but I tend to make them work in my favor. My workplace has traditionally done early dismissal on the day before a holiday. Over 20 years ago, human resources discovered that people were taking advantage, coming in earlier and leaving earlier, coming in later and then working less time, etc. So the human resources director at the time put out a memo via email that the schedule for the half day before a holiday would be a regular schedule, meaning that you were to come in at your normal start time and take your normal breaks. Most of the staff worked 8 to 4 and dismissal was at 1. There's also a rule that employees must provide a lunch break after 6 hours of work. Well, I read the memo about the regular schedule, and I thought it was silly for me to come in at 8, take an unrequired lunch at 12, and then have to leave at 1. Instead, I would just work the 5 hours and then jet out of there. On the morning of the early dismissal, me and some of the others were discussing how it didn't make sense. I then returned to my desk and I hit reply all to the email the HR director sent out, asking if it didn't just make more sense to skip lunch and work a straight 5. Now, it's important to know that she and I had a history. I wasn't the best employee at the time, and I always cited chapter and verse when they bent or broke a rule. Well, even though I was trying to be helpful and my idea would have actually worked out in the workplace's favor, I guess all she saw was my name and a question. She replied to all in all caps and said, "There is no discussion. It is a regular work day. You start at your regular time, take breaks at your regular time, and then leave at 1 o'clock. This actually resulted in more lost time than the start time shenanigans they were trying to eliminate. And now everyone got an extra paid hour off, with a slight inconvenience of having to return to punch out. We're 10 minutes from a large shopping center, so that hour is a trip to the supermarket on the day before Thanksgiving or stocking stuffers on Christmas Eve. For 20 years, this policy was carried forward. On early dismissal days, we would come in at 8 o'clock, take a break from 9 o'clock until 9:15, then leave for lunch at 12, only to return at 1 to punch out. It was then changed a few years ago to a policy where you only had to work 5 hours to accommodate the people who regularly come in earlier than 8 o'clock. But we are still directed to take all breaks on a regular schedule, which honestly, in retrospect, all of this could have been fixed a lot sooner if they had simply listened. Oh man, the original poster has a lot of guts, because there is no way I would ever do a reply all to everybody. That tags everybody that got that email, dude. That's crazy. And instead of saving face, I love the fact that this human resources director is like, oh, it's that one person. I hate them, therefore I gotta make myself look crazy. So good for you for asking the right questions, because clearly this needed to be fixed. And the fact that it took that long is insane in my opinion. An entitled Karen comes into my sober living facility and is completely ungrateful for the services she's being given. And I'm honestly blown away by her behavior. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in a sober living facility where we each have our own apartment. All we're asked to do is attend a 30-minute morning group at 8 o'clock in the morning, a meeting via Zoom from 12:30 to 3:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Psych ED from 9 to 11 on Monday and Friday. Weekends are free, plus there's 3 AA meetings a week. That's it. It's not exactly boot camp, especially when they're helping get us clean and off the streets, like literally saving our lives. Anyways, a new couple moved in yesterday, and they'd been living in a one-person tent with a twin-size air mattress. We're talking 2 full-grown adults in the middle of summer sweating their butts off. Their ride bailed on them, so our peer support went out himself to get them. Well, this morning, he had to wake them up just to get them to the 8 o'clock group meeting. Again, it's only 30 minutes. When it came time for our daily gratitude circle, the girl of this couple goes, "My name is Amber, and I am not an addict, so I don't even know why the F I'm here. This meeting is stupid, and I'm grateful for lots of things, but this ain't one of them." And I swear to God, I thought it was nighttime for a second with all the crickets I heard chirping. Everybody just kind of sat there, open-mouthed in disbelief. Like, girl, if you're not an addict, then why are you in a free sober housing? They plucked you out of a sweatbox tent and gave you air conditioning and a real mattress. And your reaction is to say this is stupid? I mean, did you really think you were coming to a 5-star suite? Free housing and fluff pillows and chocolate drops? I mean, I was floored. Just absolutely baffled by the audacity. Some people act like the world owes them a Hilton suite and a therapist with snacks, which in my mind really qualifies this lady as an entitled Karen. Yeah, I completely agree with the original poster. Here you are, probably at your rock bottom, or at least really close, and you're being offered a service that will help you get your life together. So for you to sit there and be like, "Oh, this is stupid. I am not an addict. I just happen to be in a sober living housing unit, whatever." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Clearly you have some kind of problem. They're not just gonna pick up anybody for this. Like, seriously, have some kind of gratitude for this. So yeah, I completely agree with the original poster. This lady is a complete Karen, and she's completely ungrateful. My job has a customer that comes in and truly acts incredibly weird. And anytime he does come in, I walk away with more questions than answers literally every single time. Here's what's going on. Okay, so listen, I don't know how to describe the following without sounding a bit crazy, but basically, I work front of house to a restaurant chain, and we aren't super big, but we do have locations in over 30 states. So it's not a mom and pop place. Anyways, there's this one guy that we have as a client, and for the sake of the story, I will call him Silent Bob. You'll see why soon, as he shows up sometimes once in a week, sometimes 3 times, and sometimes never for several weeks. But when he does show up, things change in the restaurant. And mind you, we are usually a busy location. We mostly operate on breakfast, and that's the only hint that I will give. He shows up between 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning, and not a minute after and not a minute before those times. And like I said, sometimes he just never shows up at all. And yet, we have these 2 booths in the back corner in a slightly darker area, and that's a section that we keep the blinds in that side deliberately down. On top of that, we keep one of those booths always open between 10 and 11. This guy shows up, says nothing, walks over to one of them that is empty, and then sits down. And with that, the whole dance begins. His order is always, and I mean always, the same. 1 side of tomato soup with 4 packs of crackers salted, 2 orders of buttered grits served in a soup bowl together, 2 orders of 2 eggs poached and soft with a little bit of ruddiness in it, served on top of the grits, 1 glass of ice cubes with no water, 1 water pitcher, 2 orange juices ice cold, and 4 strips of bacon. This is also not overly unusual, except that we don't do that sort of special request on the bowls and orange juice, and we definitely don't do that for any other guest. But for him, there is a pitcher of orange juice Tropicana put in the freezer at 9 o'clock in the morning so that it is ice cold or slushy-like to serve if he comes in. Now, the tomato soup and grits is no problem. Even the whole serving is a zero real issue. It's a big part of the menu, so we have it on order all the time. The poached eggs are a slightly different matter. The moment this guy walks in, either I or whomever's at the front is supposed to let the kitchen know that the poached OJ special is in. And with that, those 4 eggs get started, and a server will get 2 orange juices, some water, etc., all going to the table. No one is to talk to him, ask him if he wants the check, or bother him in any way unless he calls for it, which is also weird. So we leave one of those milkshake flags on his table laid down, and if it goes up, he wishes for something else, which is 90% of the time more orange juice or water. Now, we do not have those milkshake flags for anything else in our restaurant. It's only for him and for that explicit purpose. When he's done, he gets up and walks away, and we are not to talk to him. If for some reason he has forgotten an item in the booth, the manager will take care of it. These are the very instructions I received from the manager about him, because apparently this guy has an arrangement for the service to be this way. My manager's words at the end of the week, should he have graced us with his presence, is that we get cash infusion tips tip that comes out to around $100 each. Our manager does not explicitly say it's from this guy, and he refuses to talk about anything related to him unless it's that we may in some way have an issue with the particulars of his order, such as having no OJ in the inventory. But we all know it's from him since we only get it if he comes in that week. The service is not a real hassle in any way that is truly meaningful, but it's just interesting enough for me to walk away with so many questions. Dude, this guy's either like some kind of spy or like international hitman, or he's like a private owner of the franchise or something like that. Like, is your boss involved with a mafia? Like, dude, what's going on right now? This sounds incredibly sketchy, and I don't blame you for having questions, but I think to be on the safe side, it would probably be better to just avoid Silent Bob. Just give him what he wants, and everybody, I think from the sounds of it, will be very happy. I found another woman's sock in my house after being away for a week from my boyfriend, and now he's freaking out on me and saying that he's not cheating on me, despite the fact that I just want him to tell me the truth. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I was away for a week for work. He was off work nearly this entire time, as he works 1 week on and 1 week off. When I came home, my boyfriend had cleaned the house up quite extensively. Obviously not a crime in itself, but it was surprising and a little bit out of character. I usually had to do most of the cleaning, so it was completely unexpected. He'd even picked up some of my laundry that I'd left in the washroom and living room and put it in the basket. And I was surprised, but I didn't think much of it. He started night shifts the day after I returned, and I was working days. So I came home from work after he had left, and I figured that I'd spend some time cleaning the house since he had done that as well. There's a shop vac that had been sitting just outside our bedroom door for a few weeks that I finally moved to the closet. And when I moved it, I found a sock just behind it. It was a small ankle sock, obviously women's and a brand that I've never seen before. I had a bad feeling by this point, but I put the sock on a table by my bedside and I continued cleaning, intending to ask him about it when he returned from work early in the morning. Well, when I asked him whose sock it was, he said that he didn't know. He then said he found it on the stairs and thought it was mine, so he put it there. But the thing is, I put the sock there. I doubt that he had even seen it around the house, or else it wouldn't have been behind the shop vac. And if he had seen it and thought it was mine, wouldn't he have tried to, like, I don't know, put it in the basket with my other clothing that he'd put away? I told him that I put the sock there, and I asked him why he lied about putting it there. He said he didn't have anybody over and he didn't know whose sock it was. I then left and he got ready for work and he went to sleep. And at this point, I'm wondering if he's cheating on me or not, or what I should really do, because right now I seriously am at such a loss. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update. Here's what they have to say. Well, my boyfriend woke up and I'm sitting here in the office area doing some work, but also periodically crying and reading the comments on my post. He came into the room and tried cuddling with me behind my chair, and I was obviously stiff, and he asked me why I was mad at him. I said that I didn't know why he wasn't honest with me earlier about the sock, and he said he didn't lie to me. I said that I put the sock there on the table so he couldn't have done it, but he said that he had meant that he found the sock while cleaning and tossed it aside, landing forgotten behind the shop vac. Well, he then got super mad, saying that I'm accusing him of cheating, swearing around and saying that he's not coming on our trip to my parents' house during the summer, and that he's staying home all summer, and that a friend of mine who was supposed to rent the house for work during the summer can't stay there then because he'll be here. I asked him why he was getting so mad and said that I'd been upset and I just needed an explanation and reassurance from him, but he continued to lose it. He stormed towards the door and threw his cup of coffee down the stairs. He then grabbed an old baseball bat that we keep by the stairs and started hitting the step outside the door, yelling that he's not cheating on me. He threw his lunch that he'd packed up for work all over the steps, and then he peeled off in his truck. And that's currently where we're at, because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I don't know about you, but for me, it really seems like this guy's super guilty. Like, just think about it for a second. He's the one that brought up the fact, like, oh yeah, I didn't bring anybody over, but you didn't accuse him of bringing anyone over. You literally said, hey, whose sock is this, and why did you lie to me? And I don't know about you, but literally grabbing a baseball bat and hitting the stairs and screaming, I'm not cheating on you, as well as throwing your coffee and your lunch all over the place, that doesn't scream innocent in my mind. That screams you got caught cheating and now you're having to pay for it. So yeah, it seems like this guy's cheating, and if that is the case, I am so sorry that you're dealing with this. But hopefully the truth comes out one way or the other, because the way your boyfriend's acting is super sketchy. My boyfriend wants his autistic brother to live with us when his parents can no longer do so. And right now that really scares me, as I feel right now that our 7-year relationship is in jeopardy. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been with my 27-year-old boyfriend for over 7 years now. And at this point, we've been starting to talk about leveling up our relationship to the next level. He is a good man and I do love him, but I'm really scared about the future. For context, he has a 20-year-old sibling who has severe autism. He has the brain of a 2-year-old. He cannot communicate, but somewhat understands a few words based on his reactions, and he does vocal stimming, and right now he's under the care of both of his parents. My boyfriend told me that when the time comes that his parents can no longer take care of his brother, he plans to take him in with us, and that honestly just scared me. I'm a light sleeper, so if he does vocal stimming at night, at worst every night, I don't know if I'm ever going to get enough sleep. He also seems kind of violent sometimes. At one point, he pulled my hair really hard at their family gathering for no reason. I also want to have a dog in the future, but I'm not sure if he's going to be okay with it. Right now, they have dogs, but they don't let them inside the house. And what about if we have kids? How are they going to react to this? To add on to that, he also poops everywhere and literally needs to be monitored 24/7 because he does a lot of things like drinking water from the toilet or eating things that he shouldn't. As a person who loves to travel, I feel like when he starts living with us, we won't be able to travel as a complete family, as he would have to stay with him. There's all sorts of questions in my head and anxious thoughts that weigh so much. I don't want to break up, and sometimes I blame myself for not thinking this through from the very beginning. But I don't regret every single moment with my boyfriend. I love him so much and I was ready to be his bride. But not until this came into the picture, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, you better know exactly what you want before you marry this guy. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like he's gonna bring in his brother pretty much no matter what. Which is basically saying, yeah, you're gonna help take care of my brother that, by the way, is a little bit violent. Because look, in my opinion, I think he needs professional help. I totally understand the parents stepped up, like that's fantastic, but this is not your burden. And I seriously mean that. It should not be your responsibility to take care of this guy. So if you really don't feel comfortable with this and your boyfriend really wants to take care of his brother, then maybe this is not the best relationship for you. Like, that's obviously up to you to figure out, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be reconsidering everything, especially if caring for someone like that is not in my plans. I disowned my father 10 years ago, but today I found out that someone in my family is giving him updates on my pregnancies. And at this point, I feel betrayed and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my mom and father had me in high school. They got married and divorced about a year later, leaving me to legally be split in custody between them the majority of my childhood. My father was awful. I tried to emancipate myself in my teens to get out of the custodial contract and give my mom full custody, but my lawyer said by the time we went through the due process, I would already be 18 years old. So the recommendation was to wait and disown him once the contract ended, which I did on my 18th birthday. My father is also a diagnosed psychopath. He lies and manipulates and gaslights, but on the outside, he is a high-ranking city official who is best friends with the mayor. Point being is that he does not care about boundaries, and he has his way of prying information from people without them even realizing it. Sometimes, though, he doesn't care if you realize he's doing it or not. He will break those boundaries in public ways, just to cause you psychological distress. It's been 10 years of no contact. Because of the way he networks, I also cut off several members of my family and friends who overlap relationships with him, so I've always felt relatively safe sharing my life with my inner circle. I'm currently pregnant with my husband and I's second child after our first pregnancy unfortunately ended late term about 18 months ago. I was speaking to my mom about it today, when she asked if I was going to tell my father. Baffled because it's been 10 years of no contact, I said of course not, why? And that's when she mentioned that he knew about the first one and assumed that I had told him. Now for context, they also went no contact after my custodial contract ended, but according to her, during our first pregnancy, he texted her for the first time in years and simply asked if there were any grandbabies yet. She said she told him no because technically I was still pregnant and one hadn't been born yet. Well, he didn't respond. She said the timing and the random question was uncanny, and I completely agree. The part of it all is that we never did a public pregnancy announcement because we knew there was a chance of something going wrong. My husband and I only verbally told our inner circle. It's worth mentioning that we also live on the opposite side of the country from him, so I don't necessarily think it's possible for someone to cross paths with him and bring it up. But I also wouldn't put it past him to do some traveling just to get some information. All this to say is that we were going to announce our current pregnancy, and now I'm very hesitant to do so. Growing up, there were several times with him that I was put in unsafe situations. So I do not want this man to be in our child's life, to the point that I don't even want him to know our child exists, especially for all of our safety. My inner circle knows this, and I feel completely betrayed and scared, and I feel like I'm blowing it out of proportion, but I feel like I'm not at the same time. I feel like I don't know who I can trust. I don't know how to navigate this pregnancy and my child's life after birth, and I almost feel like I'm incapable of protecting them, and it really hurts. So truly, how do I navigate this situation? Because right now, I'm at a complete loss. Okay, it really seems like there's a rat in your inner circle, and that really sucks. It reminds me of that scene in Game of Thrones where Tyrion Lannister is like giving false information to a bunch of people, and then he waits to see what gets back to him to find out who the rat is. So you could try something like that, but that would be really complicated and weird, and I just don't think that's a good idea. But it certainly is an option if you want to try and get down to the bottom of it. The other path you can take is literally just by asking people and saying, hey, I don't want my dad knowing about my life. Did you tell him about anything going on? And try to sniff it out from there, because seriously, you have a right to privacy. So hopefully this all works out, because your dad sounds like a monster, and I would not want them around any of my future children if I was in your shoes. An entitled jerk walks into my restaurant, seats himself at a dirty table, and then demands that I drop everything that I'm doing to only serve him. But despite the fact that I was the only server on the busiest night we've had in a while, and after enduring his swearing and screaming at me, I finally put my foot down and kicked this guy out of my restaurant. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few years ago when I was still working at hotels and restaurants to put myself through school. It was the middle of August and we were dealing with scorching hot weather. In Canada, restaurants will have roadside patios in the summer, which means that our restaurant almost doubles its capacity. During the other 3 seasons, we have 18 tables with a 2 to 6 person capacity inside, and we have 2 servers. During the patio season, we have an additional 15 tables, all 4 person outside, and only 1 additional server. Well, on a holiday Saturday, I get into work one day only to find out that our host had called in sick, and so had the other 2 servers, meaning that it was only going to be me on the floor to do everything. Now, it does get busy, but I'm managing for the most part. And because it is such a nice day, I'm able to convince everybody to sit on the patio, which means less running back and forth inside. The patio is completely full, and I have 3 tables inside, which means I'm now at my limit. All the tables need drinks, half of them haven't even ordered food, and I know I cannot take another table until I'm caught up. I just can't do it. I'm cashing out 1 table on the patio when a man walks up to me and says, "We'll be sitting there as soon as they're done, so you need to clean this up right now." But I tell him that it will be about a 30-minute wait for a table. I have no time because it is just me. I then go inside to get food for another table, and I go outside to see him sitting at the dirty table. But I decide for right now I'm just going to ignore him. He then calls out to me as I'm handing other people their food and says to me, "This table is disgusting. Come clean it right now." But I replied by saying, "I'm sorry, I told you it was not available and you will have to wait." As I'm going inside to get even more food to run, I eventually come out of the kitchen with new plates, and this guy literally has the dirty plates from his table and tries to hand them to me, even though my hands are full. But you know what? I just walked by him. He then just put them in a table inside and said to me, I need a menu, please." But once again, I just ignored him and continued working on my other tables. Now, mind you, this has been about 8 minutes total so far, but eventually he manages to get a menu from another table because he told them I accidentally forgot, and that table told me that he was super mad at me for forgetting. He then starts trying to tell me what he wants to order, as well as barking at me to clean up his table. But again, I completely ignored him. For the full 30 minutes, I had told him that he would need to wait. But now I am finally caught up. But when I approach the table, he literally starts screaming at me. And by the way, if he had not screamed at me, I would have just let him order his food like normal. But he made a serious mistake, because the second he raised his voice at me, I told him to get out. He then literally threatens me, and I tell him right then and there, "Okay, try me. The guys in the kitchen will step up if he even puts a hand on me, and every single one of them are felons." He then demands to order food, but that's when I told him, "Okay, well, you've seen how good I am at ignoring you. Do you want to see how good I am at throwing people out?" Eventually, he finally gets the hint, and he leaves while swearing and yelling at me along the way. Now, the only downside was the tables he took the menus from asked to talk to the manager because they thought that I was in the wrong and that I should have just served him like normal. They also refused to tip me and were really rude to me the rest of the time. But thankfully, my manager took my side because, of course, I didn't do anything wrong. Wow, that guy's a piece of garbage. Seriously, who's gonna act like that at a restaurant and then expect to still be seen? This guy literally walked up and was like, "Oh, you better serve me right now. I need you to clean this table right now. Oh, by the way, here's all the dirty dishes you don't have time to clean up yourself." Like, what is wrong with this guy? This is some weird entitlement that I just will never understand. But for me, the best part about this is the fact that your manager took your side. The number of times I've run into managers who just would not come to bat for me, especially after dealing with people like this, is astronomical. Most managers I dealt with in the restaurant business would fold like a house of cards the second there's any kind of complaint, because they're too much of a coward to deal with it themselves, but also the first ones to blame you if anything goes wrong. But thankfully, it sounds like you don't have to deal with that, because that truly is a nightmare in and of itself. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for questioning my boyfriend about why he didn't call off of work for my surgery? Because right now I'm scrambling for my rights situation situation to and from my surgery, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, I'm a 30-year-old female, and I injured myself back in May when a table fell on my foot. I couldn't bear weight for about 2 months, but it finally got better. I slowly started to be active again, but something in my gut was telling me to still take it easy, since I still had some pain. Fast forward to September, after a week of walking a lot during vacation, and the pain has completely intensified. I then went to see a doctor who informed me that it's likely a lacerated tendon that needs surgery. The surgery got scheduled for the end of October, and I let my boyfriend know 2 weeks prior what date and time it would be. I remember sitting him down and asking him about this because I needed to fill out paperwork online that was meant for some kind of point of contact for the post-op pickup. Today, I was confirming the times with him again, only to then find out that he can either drop me off or pick me up, but he cannot do both. And I was super confused because I informed him 2 weeks ago, and I thought he would let work know in advance that he needed a few hours off in the morning, but it turns out his work doesn't need that advance of a notice, and he can just tell them the day of. So I asked him if he was using PTO for this, and he said no, and I just didn't understand why since I told him in advance, and he said he didn't want to miss his meetings or use PTO for something like this. Now at this point, I just felt hurt because he's not taking this seriously, or he seems like he just doesn't want to do it. He basically said he can only do one or the other because he doesn't want to miss meetings, and if I have other means to do this, then I should use them. He's now saying that I'm ungrateful because he's already doing me a favor and thinks that I'm the jerk for putting all of this on him to begin with, and he's upset that I'm questioning if he cares about me. But right now, I'm at a loss for what to say or how else to phrase this just to show him that all this makes me question if he can't be there for the sickness part of our marriage down the road. So am I at fault for expecting this out of him? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your boyfriend literally agreed to help you out with this, and then the day of, he's like, I can't believe you're putting this all on me. Seriously, what's your problem? And it's like, no dude, what is your problem? You agreed to help her out. At least have some kind of backbone and actually follow through with it. So no, you're not the jerk in this scenario because your boyfriend is being completely ridiculous. Because if he really did care deep down, he would make time to make this happen. But as it stands, it honestly just doesn't look that way. Am I the jerk for getting my ex-wife and my kids uninvited from a Halloween party after I put my foot down and decided that I don't want her anywhere near my life? Here's what happened. Okay, so my ex-wife and I have been divorced for 6 years, and we have 2 kids together under 10 years old. The divorce was not unusual, but a pattern emerged during that time where it seemed like my ex would try to intrude into my business whenever possible. Her boundaries are not good, or rather, her willingness to respect my boundaries. Here's a few examples to try and illustrate my point. For starters, I kept the home, but even after moving across the city, she felt entitled to enter my home whenever she wanted. She created fake social media accounts to try and keep tabs on me, and freaked out on me several times when I started dating, despite being in a relationship with her affair partner. As a result, I decided to do everything I could to avoid any crossover in our lives other than the children. I stopped talking to mutual friends and built my own network of friends that she doesn't know. And this has been great for my mental health. Many of my friends live in my neighborhood, but my ex didn't know them when she lived here. She has interacted with them briefly at school events because my kids are friends with their kids as well, but when my friends have asked about her, I keep the information limited, and I'm not sharing the extent to which she made my life difficult during our marriage. So anyways, recently my ex took my oldest to a birthday party for one of my friend's kids. Apparently, during that party, the moms were talking about our Halloween party coming up around my ex. Now, I don't have my kids this year, but I go every single year, and according to my ex, she was invited to bring the kids, and according to my friends, she invited herself via text message after the birthday party. Now, the truth is probably somewhere in between, but nonetheless, 2 of the wives told me about it the next time I saw them, literally hours after seeing my ex at an event for our kids. They were apologetic and said they weren't sure how it happened and were asking if I would be okay with that. But I told them I need her to not be there and that I'd offer to have the kids and bring them to the party if she wanted. My friends were understanding and said that they would support me however I needed, but I told them that I would make it about me and not them. Well, not surprisingly, my ex didn't go for it and was insistent that she was going. This led to a contentious back and forth where she accused me of trying to control her, demanding that if I wanted her to not come, I needed to call her, which is the usual place where she tries to steamroll me, by the way, and she's also claiming that I was violating her boundaries by talking about her with my friends. She's also insistent that she's allowed to be friends with anyone that she wants, and I can't stop her from being friends with these people. I finally ended it by telling her that she had been uninvited, and I was the one who communicated that on behalf of my friends. She then told my kids that I uninvited her from the party, and they were mad at me for a few days. days. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Your ex-wife knew exactly what she was doing. She literally only wanted to be there so she could mess with you and your friends. And that's not fair in the slightest. Like, that really is so messed up. She's not there because she wants to like be included in this party. She just wants to be there so she can push over the apple cart one more time just because she can. Like, she's already following your every move on social media. Who's to say she's not going to try and do this again by like squeezing information out of your friends? So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, the fact that she tried to turn your kids against you is so insane in my opinion. And if anything, that shows the kind of person that she truly is. An entitled jerk comes into my bar at the last second, swearing and screaming at me over the dumbest reasons on planet Earth. And after dealing with this for so long, I finally snapped and put my foot down, kicking this guy out of my bar while also humiliating him in the process. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I am still fuming a bit from this interaction that I had the other night. For reference, I work as a bartender in a state that's pretty strict with their drinking laws, and the last call is at 1 o'clock in the morning. After a busy night, it's like 12:30 p.m. and I had some guys come in. I greeted him by saying, "Hey, how are you doing today? Can I grab your ID real quick?" And by law, I have to check anyone's ID who comes into the bar. Well, the dude sits down and goes, "You don't care about how I'm doing." Now, I paused, since he said this in a super rude tone, and I at first didn't get what he was referencing, so I then just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of confused. I just asked how you were doing and if I could see your ID." And before I could finish my sentence, he repeated himself by saying, "Well, you don't care about how I'm doing, do you?" And he said it much more aggressively this time. I just responded by saying, "I mean, I asked how you were doing and I do care, but I do really need to see your ID, especially if you're gonna be in here since it is just the law." He then took forever to get it out, and as I'm scanning, he just blurts out, "You do realize how aggravating and abrasive you're being, right? You don't care how I'm doing? And what, are you closing the bar right now?" At this point, I've closed down one side, but people are still at the bar sitting and hanging out. And I then start to say, "Well, for one, you came in here pretty abrasive yourself and not very nicely. And yeah, just one half of the bar back here I'm closing up, as it has been a pretty busy night tonight." But again, he cuts me off mid-sentence and says to me, "Well, you don't need to have an attitude, and I want a beer, so can you at least accommodate that?" At this point, I was taken aback. I not only had my normal customer service voice on, but I was also in a great mood when greeting this guy. And I was just shocked that he would still demand a drink after just rudely and loudly saying this to me. All I said to him was, "Okay, is our cheapest beer fine for you then?" And he just grumbled and said, "Yeah, whatever." As I'm going to grab the beer, he then goes on to say, "Well, look, I'll keep my mouth shut if you keep your mouth shut while I drink this beer, and maybe I'll tip you if you shut up." Well, I didn't even set the beer down before I told him straight up, "Okay, now I'm gonna have an attitude with you. Get out of this bar right now, because if you don't, I'll have you removed." And as his sorry butt left, he just kept repeating, "Oh look, there's that attitude, you jerk. What's your problem? I should just get this beer for free at this point." The customers drinking at the bar were shocked at what he had just said, and thankfully tipped really well, and they all apologized to me for having some random stranger talk to me like that. Now, I am and was lost for words over how someone could think that I would still serve them a beer and beg for a tip after being spoken to like that. Plus, coming in before last call like that is seriously the absolute worst. Like, seriously, get lost. Because if you're going to come in late, the least you could do is try not to be an absolute jerk about it. Oh man, I love this story because I'm so glad the original poster kicked him out. In my opinion, customer service goes out the window the second they start swearing at me. I don't care where you work or what you're doing. That behavior is unacceptable. And the fact that this guy came in super aggressive, clearly having a bad day, is not only not my problem, but also it's something that needs to be punished. Because if the original poster had just rolled over and played dead and said, "Oh, you're right, sir, here's your beer, don't worry about it," that is only going to encourage that crappy behavior. So truly, I'm so proud of the original poster, because this kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for asking my fiance for money after he wrecked my car and completely totaled it? Because right now, I've decided not to marry him, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my now ex-fiance and I were driving in my car to a concert, and for the sake of the story, we'll call my ex-fiance Steve. The concert details mentioned valet parking across the street from the venue, so we settled on parking there. 2 miles from the venue, I noticed on the map that the hotel with the valet service was on the left side of the road, and assumed that we needed to be in the furthest left lane of the one-way road that we were driving down. So I told Steve that it would be a good idea to go ahead and merge in advance. Well, Steve said not to worry, that he would get into the left lane when he needed to, and stayed in the middle lane. Once we were half a mile from the venue, I saw a public parking garage on our left. I thought the garage may be a cheaper and easier option, so in a split-second decision, I told Steve to go into the garage. Well, without looking behind him, Steve turned into the left lane, and we were hit by an oncoming car. My car was towed, and we ended up walking the last half mile to the concert, with me having to pay for the 40-minute Uber ride home. Now, the car didn't look good. It was hit in the front left corner, and the tire was completely broken, and I've now accepted that the car is likely totaled. I called Steve the next night, and I believe that since he was driving, he should pay half of my $1,000 deductible. I also asked him to pay 50% of car payments on the used car I end up buying, all the way up to the value of my old car. But he refused, saying that he needs to think about what is best for him financially. He said I didn't care about him because I was trying to put him in a tough spot. He said that he can't and won't help me pay for another car. Now, I am a full-time college student graduating this year, and I have a part-time job that pays $9 an hour, and I do have some money saved up for emergencies. Steve just started a full-time job making $17 an hour and is currently living rent-free with a friend. He drives an older car given to him by his parents with over 150,000 miles on it because his car gave out recently. And funny enough, that car was a replacement for his previous car, which he also wrecked. After our conversation, I thought for a while and realized I don't want to spend my life with someone so selfish. So I called him back to break things off. He was staying at his parents' house for the night since his job site is in the area. And after a few minutes of me telling him that we were over and why I was breaking things off, I heard his dad's voice on the other end. And you know what? His dad tore into me, saying that my insurance payout should be enough to get a replacement car. But I said I was asking for help to get a reliable vehicle that was comparable to what I had. And he just refused on behalf of his son, saying, well, that's life, and that Steve has things of his own that he needs to save for. At the end of the call, he said that if I was serious about asking this from his son, I would be doing him a favor by leaving him. He said that I woke up everyone in the house, and then he just hung up on me. I then spent the rest of the night sobbing, and it's honestly made me questioning everything. So am I the jerk for asking my fiance for money when he wrecked my car? What should I do? No, this is completely reasonable. The fact that this guy's not willing to pay, what, $500 towards your car, as well as helping you buy a new one, in my opinion, is so weird. Like, does he not realize that this really is his own fault? He was driving your car and was being completely neglectful. That's not fair for you in the slightest. You didn't ask for that. And the fact that his dad was speaking for him, in my opinion, says all that you need to know about this guy. So no, I don't blame you for breaking things off, and I don't blame you for asking for money, because this guy is a complete coward for literally thinking that this is somehow not his problem. Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my ex access to money that I saved for our son after she found out that one of her kids has cancer? Because right now I'm starting to be really guilt-tripped by these people, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my ex and I share a 12-year-old son, and we broke up when our son was 4 weeks old. We shared physical custody from the time that he was 14 months, and I had visitation prior. And when our son was 4 years old, my ex remarried. Fast forward, and my ex now has 4 additional children with her husband, and this is where her wish for access to that money comes from. I saved for my son and set up an account that only I can access for right now. My ex was never a part of this, so I never added her to the account. I also have it protected should anything happen to me, meaning that my ex won't be taking control of any of it. One of my ex's children was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer. Their household has seen a lot of changes, and my son has struggled with those changes. And I pick up the difference where I can. So my son still goes to his activities paid for by me. I put extra money in his lunch account at school so he can always get a school lunch. And I went a little bit bigger for Christmas, which I always start buying early. My son always knew I saved for his future. He mentioned it to his mom after his mom said they were pulling all finances on their end, including anything put aside for the futures of him and his half-siblings. Well, this brought my ex to me, and she asked how much I save, which I refused to tell her. She asked me for access to the account, and again, I said no. She then suggested that I should give it to her so it can go towards funding all the help that they need to cover the cost of a sick kid, but I still refused. My ex even tried to get our son involved, and my son told me that he didn't want to keep giving stuff up, and he didn't want him to take his money. So I promised my son that it wouldn't happen. My ex ended up sending me a breakdown of what they want the money for, and I did look it over, but only after I told her that I would not take our son's money and give it to her for her other children. I told her I had a duty to my son and not to her other kids. Well, my ex then started calling me names, so I just ended the call. She then sent me a text message asking me how I could say no to helping a child who's sick. I told her that their sick child was not my responsibility, and my responsibility is to ensure that our son has a good life, the child that I made with her, and not the children that she made with her husband. Now, so far, my son has not had to deal with any of the fallout, but my ex has sent several messages ever since, with her husband sending a few of his own. So, am I at fault here for not wanting to give up my son's money that I'm saving for him? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is such a weird request. Like, seriously, why on on earth is this now on you to take care of their sick kid? And yes, the kid has cancer, that really is tragic. But why is this now suddenly your fault and your responsibility? Like, for starters, that's not your kid. But also, why should you be guilt-tripped into paying for this? So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because the way your ex is acting, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. My entitled neighbors freak out on me and my partner when they discover that we sold our apartment to someone that they did not approve of. Things got so bad that they ended up calling us horrible names and saying that we're making the worst mistake of our lives, while also saying that they're done with us. So now I feel incredibly guilty because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I moved into an apartment building over 4 years ago. My partner and I met and moved in together in the second year, and since then, we became close friends with our neighbors who we will call Scott and Christy. We would hang out, go out for dinners, have some drinks, take our dogs out for play dates, and had a great circle of friends that included 2 other women from the building. Scott and Christy lived across the hall and had an open door policy, so we would always pop in for a chat. This friendship lasted a few years without any kind of issues. That is, until my partner and I sold our apartment. Now, there was this odd couple at the end of the hall who were mostly harmless, but they would have loud arguments and were generally awkward to be around. The guy worked at a local bar we frequently went to, so we'd run into them every now and then. My partner and I had been house hunting for months with no luck. Our apartment had to be sold for family reasons, so we were stressed and eager to find a place. But finally, we found a house that was perfect for us and for our dogs, all within our budget. We put down a deposit and started the process of selling our apartment. After several low offers, we got one above our expected price while on holiday, and we had to accept it immediately as we were close to the cooling off period for our new house. The buyer was described as a first-time investor, and it seemed like our best option. Just before we finished cooling off, we found out the buyer was actually the mother of the odd couple at the end of the hall. We were uneasy since we knew they weren't well liked in the building, but we had already committed to the sale. Friends had even joked that they hoped we didn't sell to them, but we felt we had no choice. We celebrated the sale with 2 other girls in our group, and one of them, who lived in the complex, was a bit annoyed, but completely understood our situation and was for the most part happy for us. Well, Scott and Christy joined us, and when we told them, they absolutely lost it. They called us dogs, said that they were done with us, and insisted that we had made the worst mistake of our lives. We tried to explain our situation, that we could have lost the house if we didn't take the offer, but they didn't listen and they just kept yelling. After a week of no contact, Scott and Christy left a gift bag at our door. Inside were dog-themed kitchen sponges that read "Dirty Dog" on the packaging, as well as a bottle of wine and a lollipop. The card inside said something like, "Thanks for being great neighbors and good luck." And we really couldn't tell if this was a peace offering or another dig. I'm now writing this from our new house, and we've been here for over a month. We never heard another word from Scott and Christy, apart from a few awkward smiles in the hallway. Thankfully, the other 2 women have stayed in contact and remain wonderful friends. As much as I'm sad and hurt by everything that happened, I still feel weirdly guilty about giving them a bad neighbor. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk, because honestly, it sounds like you dodged a train. Just imagine getting on their bad side over something they didn't like while you still live there, because this is the kind of scrutiny you would have faced. You would have ran smack dab into the middle of their entitlement in a way that I don't think you would have completely expected. For starters, who you sell your apartment to is none of their business. They have no say in the matter, and as far as I'm concerned, they can mind their own business. But also, their parting gift to you absolutely was a dig at you and your partner. They called you dogs and said they were done with you. And then they give you dog-themed kitchen sponges that read "Dirty Dog." Like, are you kidding me right now? That absolutely is a shot at the both of you. So honestly, good for you for getting away from these people. They were clearly super crazy and toxic the entire time, and I think the fact that you moved out and got away from them truly was the only way for you to see exactly how they are. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen plays her phone at full volume in a surgery waiting room full of people, and even though she got chewed out by the receptionist, this entitled Karen refused to listen to anybody, literally disturbing everybody around her. Here's what happened. So I was in the waiting room with my wife, who was waiting to be admitted for surgery, and a woman comes in, sits down near us, and starts playing her videos at full volume with no headphones on. Well, we decided to move rather than deal with a confrontation, but even across the room, you could still hear them. The receptionist walks over to her and says, "I need to be able to hear the phone, so you need to be quieter." And she then acts shocked and said, "I was just waiting for someone to text me." And it's like, no, we can hear your videos, lady, and it isn't just a text message alert. She then turns the volume down slightly, and about 5 minutes later, I've had enough, and I say to her, "It is incredibly rude. playing your videos with no headphones in a public space. When I said this, she is again shocked and says that she is waiting to hear from a family member. But I told her this is a waiting room for surgery, and we are all waiting to hear about people, but we don't want to hear the sound from whatever she's watching. She then apologizes and turns off the videos, but not even 5 minutes later, she turns them back on with volume. And at this point, I just gave up. I sat in a chair outside the waiting room until my wife was in recovery, because truly, some people you simply cannot reason with. Yeah, that's really rude if you ask me. Here you are in a waiting room for surgery waiting on your wife, and this person's literally playing the volume at full blast. And you know it's not just you, like literally the receptionist is like, hey, you've got to be quiet. So that truly is super annoying, and honestly, I don't blame you for getting frustrated, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for not staying home for my Taylor Swift concert, all because my sister-in-law's mom passed away? Because right now, my sister-in-law is calling me horrible names, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently on my flight to Indianapolis to see the Eras Tour on Saturday. I bought tickets last year and have been booked and ready to go. I have been looking forward to this so much as someone who's been a fan for a long time of Taylor Swift. Well, my sister-in-law, who we will call Grace, told the family last night that her mom passed away. Now, this is truly heartbreaking. I lost my dad when I was 20 years old, so I do understand. I went over after work to be with them and also did their laundry for them, and I fixed them some dinner. Before I left, I prepared a bunch of wraps to eat and some casserole as well, and I was there until 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have barely slept. I then got a call this morning from Grace asking if I could come over and spend the morning with her, but I told her that unfortunately I had a few things I had to do before I could leave for my concert. She then got very quiet and asked me if I was still going to that, and I told her yes, I leave in 5 hours for the airport. She then said that she couldn't believe I could still think about a concert when she has just become an orphan with no one in the world but our family. I told her that I'm so sorry, that when I get back I will take off a few days to be with her if she needs it, but that this is something I've been looking forward to, and also my friends are coming with me and they're counting on me for things like the hotel and the rental car. Well, when I said that, she got angry and she told me that I'm a horrible sister-in-law and that she hopes when my mom dies, everyone abandons me too. And I know that this is the shock and grief talking, so I am truly not mad at her. When my dad died, I said some pretty chaotic things as well, but as I'm sitting on this flight, I feel so bad. I did everything I could think of before leaving to make the day-to-day portions of life a little bit easier for them. There's also not going to be a funeral, so there's no real big planning involved. So am I the jerk for still going on this trip, despite my sister-in-law really not having a lot of other people to be there for her? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you're right in assuming that this is basically the grief talking, because seriously, you've spent probably thousands of dollars getting ready for this, and you going on this trip and going to this concert is not some kind of like subtle jab that you don't care about her and that you're abandoning her. Like, that's not fair at all. That really is just a ridiculous statement, and I don't blame you for being like, wait, I've really planned on this. I'm sorry, I can't stick around. And it's not like you're abandoning her. That's insane. You literally will be back to help out, and there's not even going to be a funeral of some kind, so it's not like there's any planning involved, just like you said. So no, I definitely don't think you're the jerk here, especially since she wished your mom would die and wants you to feel abandoned, because that was a line, in my opinion, that definitely should not have been crossed. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that my support for her and my niece ends in January? Because after I found out that she had been lying to me, I'm now at my breaking point, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister has a 4-year-old, and the baby daddy is the run-of-the-mill deadbeat. He does not work, he avoids court appearances, he lives with his mother, and does not even have a state ID. Now, I've been the support for my sister for 3 years. She was staying with our mom, but something happened to her, and she now lives in a retirement community, so she does not have the same amount of space. My mom asked me to make sure my sister is okay, because she is the baby of the family, and trust me, I get it. She was young, and the father of her child played a good act, and I don't blame her for any of that. So I cover childcare and rent for my sister. I'll also spot her when she needs other stuff, like school supplies, food, or even clothing for my niece. She's also a manager at Target. When she has to work late, I'll let my niece sleep over. In general, I took care of pickups because I get off at 5 o'clock, and she generally handles drop-offs. I'll also take care of dinner, while my sister handles bath and bedtime. But unfortunately, things are not as they seem. My mom recently let the cat out of the bag that my sister is going to Europe on the 12th all the way to the 17th. But my sister told me that she was going to Florida for her high school friend's wedding. She asked if I would be willing to handle watching my niece, and I said sure, because she has been working late, putting in long hours at work. Well, I pushed our mom and I finally got the truth. Apparently, she is seeing someone and has not told them that she has a kid. This guy thinks that my niece is actually my child, and she's the one helping me out from time to time. He's also met my mom and she seems to like him as well. After I found out, I confronted my sister and she apologized to me, but I told her I don't care and she has until January. She told me I was being cold and misogynistic, but I told her if she wants to date as a single mother, she has an obligation to be transparent with the people that she's dating that she has a child. She said that she can separate the two, and I told her no, you definitely cannot. She has a daughter and she cannot lie and say that she is my kid just so she can have fun and not scare people off. But apparently I don't understand the dating scene or what it's like to have a kid at 21 with another man that is not even in the picture, since this is, according to her, a huge red flag. But I told her so is lying about having a kid. This does not work either way. I then asked her if she plans on pretending that her daughter is mine forever, and she said I'm like a father to my niece anyways. So seriously, am I the jerk here? I know this may get harder for my sister, especially my niece without my support, because she can't afford where she lives, and she cannot afford daycare on Target's pay. My mom has told me that I need to do what's best for my niece, and she's afraid that if she pushes my sister too much, she will just break down. What should I do? Oh boy, the second your sister was like, oh, you're like a father to my niece, as some kind of response to your questioning, in my opinion, would be the last and only straw I would ever handle with this situation. Like seriously, this is crazy behavior. There's no good excuse, and the fact that she doesn't see that is even more alarming. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because the way your sister's acting is completely insane. Am I the jerk for asking my friend to reduce her bill after she catered for my party, where she literally tried to charge double the amount that she gave us as an estimate? Because right now we are not on speaking terms, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently hired a friend to do a party who runs a part-time catering company out of her house. She has not worked in over a year, and I thought we'd be able to help each other out, as the company I work for needed a party catered and she could use the money. She has done things for us in the past, and she has a great eye. Food is always on point, even though I know a lot of what she serves is pre-made from Costco or Trader Joe's. She has a knack for making a beautiful spread and also handles all the decor. We had a plan to do an upscale pirate theme for 8 to 10 people. It sounds cheesy, I know, but I knew that she would make it look super amazing. She gave me an estimate of about $2,000 for the agreed upon menu, including decor, setup, and cleanup. It's also important to note, this did not include alcohol, as we agreed to provide it. So my boss approved the estimate and we moved forward. Well, a few days before the party, while I was traveling, I asked if she could get a few eye patches and bandanas for the guests. She told me she didn't have pirate costumes and would source them off of Amazon. I reiterated that I don't want full costumes, just eye patches and bandanas. She then asked me how many, and I said 12 in case a few extra people showed up. Well, 24 hours before the party, we exchanged messages, and this is where things kind of went wrong. My friend said to me, just want you to be aware that we are going well over the $2,000 estimate with all the extras, an extra table decor and setting, and the 12 costumes. So I haven't even gotten the exact number, as I've still got cooking and hours at party tomorrow. I then say to her, okay, well, what's well over? She then said to me, not as much as a caterer, an events planning company, and definitely not doubled. And then she started laughing. We proceed to have the party without further discussion, and it was really great. Everyone was really happy with the turnout, especially my boss. My husband and I had to clean all the dishes and glassware and the silverware after everybody left, which was a little bit annoying, but I didn't want to rock the boat. The next day, my friend texts me asking if she's going to be taxed on her pay. She then asked for my boss's email to send the bill, which caught me completely off guard because she had never had any dealings directly with him before. I told her to email me, and that's when she told me it was for $4,500. And at that point, I was beyond shocked. I immediately called her and I told her that she needed to sharpen her pencil because there is no way my boss is going to pay a bill that is 125% higher than initially estimated. I agreed with her that we had added a few people and I could maybe see the bill at being possibly $3,000, but what she wanted was practically highway robbery. She told me an estimate is just that and that it can change. We went back and forth for a few minutes until she hung up on me and resent her invoice for $3,600. I submitted the new invoice to my boss with a side note expressing my embarrassment and regret, and that if there would be a next time, I would have hired a different caterer. So am I the jerk for confronting my friend? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your friend is absolutely trying to squeeze every penny out of your boss, and this is all at your expense too, by the way. She's literally trying to upcharge you so much it's not even funny. Like, what's the point of giving an estimate if you're gonna like double the price at the end of it after it's all done? That is absolutely highway robbery, and I would be pissed off as well. So no, you're not the jerk for confronting your friend, because what she tried to do to you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the the jerk for refusing to apologize to my neighbor after I ignored her while I was out for a walk? Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old male, and I like to go on walks around my neighborhood almost every single day. I like to put in earbuds and listen to music while I walk as well. I'm an introvert, so I don't like to stop and talk to my neighbors if they're also out for a walk. I'll either wave or say hello really quickly and then just continue on my walk. Now, I have this neighbor who we will call Rita, who lives up the street, who is a bit of a problem. She's an older woman, possibly in her mid to late 70s, and she has a bit of main character syndrome. Rita is one of those old-fashioned people that feels like they're entitled to a full conversation with people while they're out walking, meaning a quick hello is unacceptable to her. I did not feel like stopping to talk to her, especially since I had other things to do after my walk and did not want to be out there longer than necessary. So I just walked right by Rita's house with my earbuds in and pretended I didn't notice her sitting on her front porch. Well, I got past her house and I heard the sound of someone yelling. I took one of my earbuds out while continuing to walk and I heard Rita yelling, "You hear me, young man? I'm telling your mother about this." But I just thought she was being dramatic and I just continued on my walk. When I got home, my mom was in the kitchen and stopped me. She told me that Rita called her and complained about me. She told me she isn't mad at me because she knows that Rita is entitled and mean as well. However, she thought I should go over to Rita's house and apologize to her anyways because our neighborhood is pretty small and everybody knows everybody, and she doesn't want Rita to badmouth us to anyone and make us look bad. Now, I wasn't surprised because there's nothing my mother cares more about than her image. I told my mom I wasn't going to apologize because Rita needs to learn that she is not entitled to anyone's time. Plus, most of our neighbors don't like Rita anyways, so there's nothing she could say to ruin our family's reputation. But my mom still thinks that I should apologize to try and keep the peace. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not, because Rita sounds like a psychopath. This sounds like some weird entitled narcissist on the street who literally demands your full attention or else you're gonna be in so much trouble. And the fact that your mom didn't shut this down in the first place really says a lot about her. Like, seriously, why even entertain this conversation? It is so stupid for anyone to be like, "You really should apologize because this is gonna make our family look bad." And it's like, dude, who cares? If she really wants to be upset because the original poster didn't want to talk to some crazy old lady down the street, then so be it. Let her be angry. The rest of the neighborhood hates her anyways, so what's the point in like entertaining that in the slightest? So no, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not be apologizing because this is such a stupid thing to be mad about, and you do not owe this woman a single thing. Am I the jerk for excluding one of my friends, all because he was actively trying to interrupt our plans? Here's what happened. So I met my boyfriend, who we will call David, 2 years ago and became close with his friends. David has two best friends who we will call Marcus and Tom, and they all go way back to high school where they all ran track together. Marcus and Tom are completely different types of people. Marcus is more reserved, but Tom is the center of attention at parties and really outgoing. He also has had a lot of girlfriends, but we have given up on getting to know them as he always finds some reason to break up with them a day or two later. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked my boyfriend why I had never seen Marcus bring around any of his girlfriends, but I was surprised when he had told me that he had never had a girlfriend. He also told me to not tell him that I knew, as he is ashamed of it and is a very private person. Now this really surprised me because Marcus is a handsome, athletic guy. I also have never noticed him having any trouble socially. He is good friends with many people and he is very easy to hang out with. I told my boyfriend this and he said that he gets anxious when approaching women and keeps making excuses not to. So I told my boyfriend if I was going to try and set him up with one of my friends. I then talked to a girlfriend that I knew was into him and I asked if she wanted to come out for drinks with the five of us the next day. Well, everything was going great until Tom joined us an hour and a half later. Tom didn't know anything about my plan, but it frustrated me that he took over the conversation and eventually left with a girl an hour later. I then sent Tom a private message telling him what I was trying to do, and he was very understanding. But the following weekend, he did it again. I tried talking to him about it, but he downplayed the situation. Eventually, I decided not to invite Tom. I invited a coworker, and we went with just the four of us. They had a great time, and I made him get her Snapchat as well. We went out again the following weekend, and she told me that they had been talking on Snapchat every day for a week, and that she really liked him. Eventually, with many hints from me and my boyfriend, he asked her out, and they are going on their second date this weekend. So here's where I could be the jerk. Tom made a private chat with just me and my boyfriend, and told us that he felt excluded the last couple of weeks. I told him I was sorry, but he knew what we were trying to do, but he was actively messing things up. He then sent me a long text message telling me it was not his fault that she liked him, and that he could not force her to like Marcus. He also tried to say that he was uncomfortable with my apparent weird obsession with hooking Marcus up, even to the point of me excluding Tom. But that's when I told him that this was not my problem, because he was the one who couldn't keep himself in check for one night. I then told him that I could invite whoever I wanted, and then I blocked him on everything. Now, my boyfriend agrees with me, but he thinks I'm being too harsh on Tom, as he is just being Tom and has no bad intentions. So now I'm kind of doubting myself if I made a mistake, because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. You did the right thing by getting rid of Tom. He was trying to mess this up for Marcus, plain and simple. Because sure, he didn't know the first time, but the second time he absolutely knew, and he still tried to get in the way of Marcus finding a girlfriend. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because in my opinion, Tom sounds incredibly entitled. An entitled old jerk loses his mind when he sees me walking through a shorter line to get through customs at an airport. And despite the fact that I needed the extra assistance after having surgery on both of my knees, this guy refused to leave me alone, resulting in him getting pulled aside by an officer. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last week. I had double knee surgery like the title says, but I needed to fly the day afterwards. So I call the airline and the airport. I explain my situation and I arrange for extra assistance. As I'm hobbling with my canes towards the short line at passport control, as there was supposed to be a wheelchair for me there, but it didn't show up, this entitled old jerk standing in the regular passport line starts yelling at me. He starts screaming at me about why I get to go through the short line when, according to him, half of his body is destroyed. Mind you, the guy who's standing is looking pretty fit, except for his gut, and he's wearing a large backpack on the destroyed side of his body. Now, I try to be nice and tell him to ask the security personnel nicely, and maybe they'll let him use the short line, but this apparently just pissed him off more, because he then flips me the bird, along with saying, "Screw you, jerk." So I just say, "Okay, buddy," and I keep hobbling down the short line. I then look back and I see the guy having an animated conversation with security, and they eventually let him into the short line. So I guess he took advantage of my advice and got what he wanted. But this apparently isn't good enough for this dude, because he's standing behind me huffing and puffing and just breathing down my neck. The next thing I know, he pushes past me because I choose to protect my knees instead of blocking him. He then pushes past two old ladies in wheelchairs and goes to the front of the line. The custom agent sees what happens, and bless her heart, she tells him to go aside for further screening. He is still standing there opening his bag for customs and arguing with a giant customs officer when I get to the passport desk. The nice customs officer clears me in 2 seconds and then apologizes for making me wait. And the last I saw of this jerk, he was still yelling at the customs officer while they toss his bag to the side. Now, I really hope he pushed it and ended up in a small room answering questions to a custom officer, all for at least a few hours just to make sure he misses his flight, because this guy truly was a massive jerk. Yeah, I will never understand why people act this way, because seriously, does he not see people around him watching his weird antics? Is it seriously that hard to just mind your own business and not attack other people because of perceived differences? Like, I don't know about you, but I like to mind my own business and just stay in my lane when it comes to other people. And just because someone's going through a shorter line doesn't mean I'm gonna chime in and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're getting this short line. I deserve it more than you do." So yeah, that guy's a piece of garbage, and honestly, I think he's getting karma in the best way possible. Because while it's one thing to yell at a passenger, it is an entirely different situation when you start yelling at a customs officer, because that could land you in quite a bit of hot water. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend ruined my trip to Italy, as he literally started problems with me the second I landed overseas, claiming that I didn't care about him enough and that I was focusing on my friends more than I was focusing on him. And despite the fact that I was apologizing for somehow offending him, he demanded that I apologize from the heart, because according to him, I didn't mean it the first time that I said it. And at this point, I'm so frustrated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I've been dating my 25-year-old boyfriend for about a year. I went to Italy for 4 days with my father, and I was looking forward for these vacations because I was working part-time and writing my thesis at the same time. And for reference, I work with telemarketing, and it is very stressful. Now, it's important to know that my boyfriend always had the tendency to make problems over nothing. He says I hurt him and makes me feel guilty because of very small things. He stresses me almost every week. Sometimes I think the reasons he gets upset are ridiculous, but sometimes I wonder if I'm being too insensitive. However, because of this, I'm starting to stop enjoying his company because it feels like a headache. When I was flying to Italy, he wished me a good trip, which I replied to him by saying thank you and I'll see you there, and I left a kiss emoji at the end. Then he answers by saying enjoy a lot and sends me a screenshot that he used used the money of my meal card to pay something, and he sent me back the money. When the plane landed, I saw the messages, and I replied by saying okay, and he reacts only with one emoji to my message without even replying. I was busy looking for my luggage and finding the bus I have to catch to go to the hotel with my dad, and he didn't reply to the message the entire day. I thought that maybe he was waiting until nighttime to text me back since I was traveling, and it's hard to text while you're traveling. Then my friends also wish me a good trip and give me suggestions of what to visit in the city, which I did reply, but honestly I barely talked to anyone because I was so busy catching public transportation. I was also walking around and I was trying to find the hotel, and it was like this the entire trip. I was always visiting monuments and always walking. At nighttime, he messages and tells me how angry he is with me, all because I never replied to him, and he saw me online the entire day, asking me who I was talking to in the first place. But I told him he was the one who didn't reply, and I was talking with my mom and my friends because they wished me a good trip. He says I should have replied to his message that says enjoy a lot, but I only replied with okay to a screenshot. So I apologized and said I was a bit busy, but I was also expecting a message back from him. And honestly, I was just surprised he didn't ask me how my flight was. He then proceeded to annoy me for the entire trip, saying that he's not my priority and that I don't give him enough importance and that I value my friends more than him. I tried explaining that I was just busy and I barely talked to anyone. I just replied to their messages and I don't see anything wrong with that. He then didn't text me back because he just didn't want to. I mean, I barely have any friends to begin with, only like 2 of them. We barely hang out because we have busy lives and we only talk by message anyways. How is that giving more importance than my boyfriend? He also started asking me for screenshots of my conversations, which I just completely refused. He then gets mad at me saying that I don't want to share anything and says that partners are supposed to share everything. There's no privacy between them. But I don't think he should demand of me screenshots of my WhatsApp messages. And then he started demanding me for more apologies, saying that I didn't say sorry from the heart. I didn't reply to his messages for a few hours because I was busy visiting the city. He then posts his statuses with revengeful quotes, basically saying that karma will get me and he will watch me screwing up my life, all because of what I did to him. And I thought this attitude was so disgusting. He's wishing me bad because of a very small thing. He knew I was looking forward to these vacations and still makes my life a living nightmare and just ruining my trip because honestly, I just wanted 4 days of peace and enjoyment. Yeah, your boyfriend is an immature piece of garbage. Like, what is his problem? First of all, he's trying to be like, oh, you didn't apologize from the heart. You need to say it again. Like, that is a massive red flag. That is so unacceptable. You don't talk to your girlfriend like that. Like, seriously, what's wrong with him? And since we're talking about it, you did not need to apologize for anything in that scenario. You literally did nothing wrong. How can this moron not understand that yes, you're busy on a trip overseas? You're literally trying to navigate all these things and this guy's like, wow, you don't care about me. Okay, have fun screwing up your life. I'm just gonna watch it happen. It's like now, right now, you're choosing to act this way? This is so crazy, it's not even funny. So yeah, I'm just gonna say it. I think your boyfriend's a piece of garbage, and the fact that he would choose right now to cause problems in your life, in my opinion, is a massive red flag, and that is not something that you should ever ignore. Am I the jerk for pointing out that my parents never moved out on their own after they approached me in public after not contacting them for nearly 18 years? Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been no contact with my parents for nearly 18 years. They were awful towards me. My father was arrested and convicted on multiple felonies, and they withheld medical care for the last 2 years I was with them. And this year, my son wound up in a day school in the same town that I grew up in. Now, I needed to pick up some supplies for work and figured that I could stop in town before going into the city. Unfortunately, my parents and my brother were there and they saw me, and there were a few other people with them from their church doing some shopping for a food drive. My mother then wailed out loud. She ran up to hug me, but I put my arm out, and when I did that, she cried even more. She said to me, "Oh please, I'm your mom. I brought you into this world." But I told her I wasn't doing this today. And then her church friend started pleading with me, spouting scripture and trying to guilt trip me. Well, my father then glared at me and put his arm around my mother. He said that I'd always been a waste of their energy. For reference, I was unplanned, and they reminded me every chance they could get. In fact, my nickname growing up was Missy, which is basically short for the word mistake. He then followed up with saying that I was a failure in school and there was no way I'd make anything of myself. But I replied by saying that it's funny how once I got the proper medical care, I didn't have the issues with school that I used to have. Before I turned around, I smiled and I said to them, "Oh, and it's rich that you say that when I'm the only person in our family that managed to move out on my own." For reference, my mother never moved out and my father moved into my grandparents' house. house. They never left, and my elderly grandmother still pays for all their food and utilities. I've had a few cousins tell me that their friends have started to distance themselves because they were told my parents were taking care of my grandmother in their home. And while I don't think I've done anything wrong, my grandmother called me up and basically was super upset that I outed them. She said I should have just walked away and not gone out of my way to embarrass them. So it honestly leaves me wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you fought fire with fire, especially after your dad basically said, "Oh, you're a mistake. You've always been a waste of our energy." Like, with that kind of attitude, I can completely understand why you moved away and why you went no contact for nearly 18 years. This is so toxic, it's not even funny. Also, the fact that their church friends were like, "Oh no, but you have to, she's your mother," and then they start spouting off scripture as if that's supposed to like do anything for you. Like, they clearly don't know what you went through as a kid, and the fact that they would blindly follow your parents in this is so annoying. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, even if your grandmother is upset, because the way your parents acted in this scenario, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. My entitled uncle is practically wishing that my grandma would pass away just so he can kick my adoptive uncle out of my grandma's house. And despite the fact that he has sold off so much property that my grandfather and grandma have owned, this guy is on a power trip. And at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom has a younger brother that we will be referring to as the entitled uncle. So as a background note, my entitled uncle is the only biological son in my mom's family. And as per our inheritance law, he will earn twice as much as his sisters, with my adoptive uncle not getting the inheritance. Being that my late grandpa was rich, he already felt like since he is the only son of the family, naturally he will earn most of the fortune. So he slacked off for most of the time, and ultimately he became jobless. So for years, he has been selling my late grandfather's lands to fit his glamour lifestyle, and he did this all without consulting the family, including my grandmother. My grandma still gives him allowance for his daily life and his medicines. He is married with 2 kids, and all of his kids' education, tuitions, and needs are all paid for by my grandmother. Until now, him and his family periodically come to our house to ask for money from my grandma, and my grandma, being a mom, and gladly gives him about 1 to 3 million of my country's currency per month. Now, my grandma retired from the police department medical unit and still got paid monthly from our government as a civil servant retiree with benefits, and she also rents out a lot for a furniture factory as well as a furniture store, which gives her more income. Now, this land that she owns was mostly managed by my mom and my adoptive uncle. So basically, since my mom lives with my grandma, my adoptive uncle's job is to monitor the lot and report to my mom if there's any incident or stuff that needs to be fixed. Also, this lot is my grandma's main source of income. Anyways, a couple days ago, I accidentally overheard my mom half yelling at my grandma because my grandma asked for more money. At first, my mom asked if the money she gave yesterday is not enough, to which my grandma said that she gave all the money to my entitled uncle for his medicines. Now, my mom was pretty shocked because the amount of money she gave my grandma is not little. And this is where I heard my mom say the following. She said to her, "Mom, I'm telling you right now, I'm not willing to give money to someone who is praying for your passing. He is your son, and yet he wished that you would pass away soon." So after the incident, I asked my mom what happened because my mom was hyperventilating because of the confrontation. My mom told me that a couple days ago, my entitled uncle comes to the lot and interrogates my adoptive uncle about some renovations. And for reference, my parents decided to renovate the main house on the lot because it is run down. Basically, my entitled uncle wants to let his guests sleep in the main house, but my adoptive uncle told him no because the main house is basically my mom's territory. So, being the typical entitled jerk that he is, my uncle then said, "You'll see later when mom passes away. Soon I'll be kicking you out because guess what? I'm the owner of this property after mom dies." He then went to see my grandma and said the same thing but reworded it. My grandma then told my mom about it, and she was heartbroken because she can't believe that her son, whom she doted by providing all of his needs, was able to say something like that. But anyways, I heard all of it, and while my entitled uncle's intention was to scare my adoptive uncle away, him saying that soon he'll be kicking out my adoptive uncle after my grandma passes away is like him hoping for my grandma's demise so that he can rule the lot. Even if grandma passed away, the property is not entirely his. It will be owned by the family and ultimately be sold off, and the earnings will be split. I told my mom, with the amount of property he has sold for his own gain and not for grandma's, he should earn less if the property got sold. I tried my best to stay neutral and civil with my uncle, but my whole family knows that I have no respect to him, and I wish that he got his karma. But even with failing internal organs, he still does this this thing. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is really awful because your uncle sounds like a piece of garbage. This guy clearly is blinded by money and he only cares about getting that sweet inheritance no matter what he says or what he does. And that is so disturbing. Like, that really is just the sign of an awful person. So hopefully your grandmother sees the light of day and understands your uncle's intentions, as well as the fact that he's using her for money. Because if she's smart, she'll cut him loose and not give him a single thing anymore. Because the way he's acting, in my opinion, is so disgusting. Am I the jerk for not defending my stepmother when my dad's family insulted her after she crossed a serious line? Because right now I'm getting scolded for not saying anything, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my grandparents hosted a family dinner on Sunday, and for a while my dad left because something came up at work for him. My sister and I, both of us being 16 and 17 respectively, were sitting with our cousins when our stepmother corrected us when we said that we had big plans for Halloween and Christmas this year because we were going to be with our maternal side of the family. She told us that those plans still need to be approved by her because dad said yes without running it by her. Well, this is when my dad's family stepped in and told her that she doesn't have the right to stop us from spending time with our maternal family. My stepmother said that as our mom, she does. And since our maternal family never speaks to her or even tries to befriend her, she has the right to say that they're not good for us. Then our grandparents told her she's not our mom, and the more she pretends to be, the less respect she has from anyone. Then it became a situation where our grandparents and our aunts and our uncles piled onto her and reminded her that she didn't give birth to us. We didn't call her mom, and they accused her of preying on a grieving man who was 11 months out from losing his wife when she swooped in and claimed us as hers. And they rub it in her face that neither my sister or I actually value her or love her or even want her in our lives. It became this huge fight because them and my stepmom stormed out. She tried to make my sister and me leave with her, but we refused to go with her, and we said we were staying with our family. Well, my dad was pissed off when he came to pick us up, and he asked me if I stepped in to defend my stepmother, who is a woman in our family, and I just said no. He asked me why on earth did I not do that, but I told him that I didn't want to defend her, and I didn't disagree with everything being said. My stepmother asked why I hadn't spoken up for her, and I told her because everything they said is true, and I would never defend her for anything. Dad then said he's not going to give us extra time with mom's family at Christmas, but my sister kind of talked him around on that because she cried to him, which made him give in. But I got lectured 2 days this week already about 10 years of being a stepmother deserving more respect and value and being worth defending in the family. My dad told me I'm a few months away from being a man and I need to act more like one. And that means defending the women in our lives, but especially the ones that we love. I told him that I always defend the people I love when I need to, and this made my stepmother cry. It made my dad walk out of the room to calm down because his wife was crying. Dad told me I'm a bad example to my sister, and the only reason she doesn't adore our stepmother is because she has followed my lead, and I should think about my influence and the fact that I'm risking a relationship with my stepmother in the future. Now, I should add that I've said similar things to her before, and to my dad as well, but they've never truly listened to me. So am I the jerk for the way I handled this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your stepmom really crossed the line here in my opinion, and that is completely inappropriate. Like, that really is not okay. She can't sit there and pretend to be your mom and then try to be like, I deserve all the respect in the world. And it's like, dude, like, are you serious right now? This really is obnoxious and there really is no reason to act like this. So no, you didn't do anything wrong because your stepmom, in my opinion, was being incredibly rude. Am I the jerk for asking my employee to show up at their scheduled time after they blew me off literally 10 minutes before their shift? Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female and I own a bakery business. My fiance's mother, who's 65 years old, works for me as the primary baker. I offer a flexible schedule, and I told her she could pick the hours that she would like to work. Prep takes place in a kitchen set up within my home, and every week she tells me what day and time she would like to come and do her baking prep work. But every week she had been late, and I have never complained to her about it or made any comments. A few days ago, she told me that she would come bake at 4:30 p.m. start, and that's honestly not a problem. I got off work at around 3:30 and began prepping dough for her to bake on her arrival. I turned my oven on around 4 o'clock p.m. because it does take a while to heat up, but by 4:20, she texted me that she was going to dinner and would be coming by afterwards. But she didn't give me a time for arrival, but I didn't say anything to her about it or even complain about it. I had the oven on and time to kill, so I just started doing some prep to get ahead of the game. I figured that since she was going to be late, I might as well utilize the time that I had. Well, my fiance's mom showed up at 5:58. When she got there, she asked why I was baking, and I said I figured I could just get ahead of the game rather than let the dough sit around. She then asked me if I had a problem with her being late, and I said I have no issues. I would just appreciate it if next time, she could give me 24-hour notice of when she plans to come to work so I can plan accordingly. Well, she then said that she had an issue with it. I asked her what she meant, and she told me it was insulting that I began her job. I told her I didn't mean any ill will by it. I was just trying to use the time that I had, but she told me that she just wanted to get the work done and that we would talk about it later. I gave it a couple of hours and went back into the kitchen to ask if she could take a quick break and we could discuss the issue because I would really like to find a resolution if possible. I asked her how she was feeling, and she told me, well, if I think there's an issue, then I should speak first. I said to her, well, I said I had no issues and you were the one who said you had a problem, so I'm just trying to understand what's going on. But she then told me again that it was insulting that I started her job. She said that I told her she could pick her own hours, and if I have different expectations to please communicate them. I said to her, I don't have a problem with you picking your own hours. I'm just asking that you let me know when you plan to come and arrive at that time so I can plan accordingly. To this, she said to me, well, this is how I feel. I'm not the only one for this job. You are the way you are, and you can find someone else. Now, my fiance was in the other room listening and was just as confused as I was. I then went upstairs and I cried. I have been close with my fiance's mom for years and have never had any sort of argument or disagreement. We have only ever had a very positive relationship. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I would even be questioning if she should be working for you in the first place. If this really is your business, and she says she's going to be here at 4:20 and then arrives over an hour and a half late, like in my opinion, that's a big sign that yes, she has got to go. Because what she's doing is completely unacceptable. Like, this is absolutely disgusting behavior because she is taking advantage of you and basically saying, oh, but this is what we agreed to. You said I could set my own hours. But it's like, yeah, you can set your own hours, but you have to fulfill that agreement when you do pick your hours, stupid. You can't just blow me off suddenly right before your shift and be like, oh, I'm going to dinner instead. I'll be there when I feel like it. Like, at that point, you might as well start doing her job and probably looking for a new baker. Like, no one who actually respects their boss would be like, oh, I'll just show up when I want to. Like, no, you're going to show up when you said you're going to show up and not whenever you feel like it. Now, also to the original poster, I think you need to realize that this is your business, and if she's not taking it seriously and is affecting your bottom line, then you're the one that's going to be punished for it and not her. So truly, you should not be getting upset about this. Instead, you really should be like putting your foot down and saying, no, you have to come to work or I'm going to replace you. And sure, you've always had a good relationship with your fiance's mother, but clearly she's not a good worker, and that, in my opinion, is not your fault. So no, you're not the jerk for the way you reacted, but I think you would be a fool for not putting your foot down and standing more firm. Because from the sounds of it, your fiance's mother is only going to take advantage of you until you finally stand up for yourself and act like an owner. An entitled toxic family rents out my lakefront property for a vacation and absolutely destroys it, lighting furniture on fire as well as destroying my ATV and most of my house. And when I confronted them about the damages, they then decided that they were going to ruin my life by defaming my name to millions of people online. But what they didn't know is that I have cameras proving once and for all that yes, they did do exactly what they did. And now they're desperately pleading that I settle out of court simply because they didn't know that they were on camera. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been very fortunate in my life. I recognize this and I understand my privilege. Everything I have was worked for on my own, starting all from nothing, and I am very grateful every single day. Now, I have a lakefront property in a vacation destination in the United States, and I rent it out year-round when I'm not there myself. Available on the property is wave runners, inflatables, etc. And during the winter months, these items are blocked away in a shed, and the price of the rent decreases to reflect that, since summer rentals are more to cover the insurance needed to operate them. I am below surrounding property prices because everyone deserves to vacation, not just the wealthy. A family rented out my property for 2 weeks in the winter. They said it was for a family reunion and it would be quite the affair. Well, during their stay, several family members broke into the shed and dragged out the trailer the wave runners were on, damaging the trailer and puncturing the tires, as well as somehow bending the frame. They tied the wave runners to the truck, dragging them to the lake and damaging them, one to the point of a total loss. They took out the ATV that I have in the back that I used to survey the property and make runs to the veg stand down the way. In fact, one of the kids went out of control, driving it up onto the sprinklers and landscaping, smashing through a porch railing, damaging the ATV as well. The child broke their leg and required some surgery. They also ransacked the property, burning furniture in the fire pit and putting large holes in walls, as well as breaking countertops in both the kitchen and the bathrooms. Well, the parents came after me for the cost, stating it was my fault, it was negligence, and it was an attractive nuisance. They were vicious, having their friends and family leave negative reviews for both my property and my local business. business. What they didn't know was that I had cameras that captured it all. My lawyer was a shark and went after them for everything, including damages for defamation. Well, the family is now so sorry. They didn't know I had cameras and want to settle out of court for 1/5 of what they would owe me otherwise. Now, I honestly would have considered it if they said sorry and meant it, but they still haven't taken down the videos on social media that paint me as a monster landlord, some of them getting over 1 million views. So I have mostly decided to not take their offer, and from what my lawyer says, this really could bankrupt the family, or so they say. Now, for the record, the property contract clearly and plainly states that all common areas have cameras, and they initialed it stating that they had read through this. And it says very plainly, common areas meaning the outside, the porches, the fire pit, the lakefront, the sheds, the barns, and the mailbox. I was also under the impression that common areas did not include inside the actual house. If I'm honest, aside from the lying, the burning of the furniture upset me the most. One was a writing desk from the late 1800s, a wicker chair set, 2 picture frames, 2 mature fig trees, a small bookshelf, all of the wooden cooking utensils, the books from the second bedroom, and a rocking chair. So you know what? I was rather attached to all of that. So am I the jerk if I don't take the settlement? Because right now I'm kind of feeling guilty. Okay, in my opinion, and this is just what I would do in this situation, I would not back down for a second. These people have not only tried to say that this is your fault, but also tried to be like, oh yeah, you're an awful landlord, you're a terrible person, and we're gonna ruin your business. And that part alone is what makes me the most angry. Like, if someone destroyed my property, sure, we can settle it there. But the fact that they want to try and ruin my reputation over stuff that they did, like, that is crazy to me. And seriously, thank God you had cameras, because these people are absolute scumbags. And if you didn't have recorded proof that yes, this definitely happened, then I'm positive that this could have gone very poorly. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for resenting my cousin while he's going through a crisis after he abandoned me when I was going through mine? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 19 years old and my cousin is 24. Over the last year, my mental health has legitimately been taking hit after hit, basically more than ever before in my life. I'm isolating myself, I'm starting fights with everybody, I'm not getting out of bed for the majority of most days, and burning around 3 different friendship bridges is just the stuff that I can bring up on this side of the internet without fearing that I might be banned. But needless to say, it was really, really bad. Then a couple months into it, I started calling him asking for help, and he was going along with it, saying to me, yeah, you can rely on me at all times, I can handle it. And so this was the system for a while. I called him every time I needed to talk to someone, and he would help me out. And he was genuinely amazing at that. He had some of the best advice I've ever heard, and he kept me up for several more months. And by then, I have grown used to relying on him. In fact, I even started going to therapy because of him, and things actually started to get better. Then at some point, he finally snapped. I'm pretty sure I can remember in which day this happened. He was driving me back home, and he started ranting with anger about how this was ruining him, how exhausting it was to have a conversation with me, and minutes later gets calls from 3 different family members asking what I said, and how he doesn't want his ability to talk to me to be dictated by that. I tried to go, yeah, that must really suck, but I didn't really consider the implications. He then said that he cared about me, and I said I could never thank him enough. But after that, he turned cold. I would tell him I had a horrible day, and he would just say to me, yeah, and I would call him in the middle of an anxiety attack, and he would hear what it was all about, and then he would say, okay, I can't talk right now, and then he would hang up on me. He dropped everything else in his life too. Everyone else in the family basically agrees that the pressure of helping me, along with a bunch of other things that happened in his life at the time, was just draining him out, and he wasn't in a state to keep being helpful, let alone to someone who's dealing with stuff. But I just saw this as the ultimate betrayal. You used to be here for me, and now you're not. I got scared of looking him in the eyes, or even talking to him during family meetings, or just eating around him. It really, really hurt. And now he's kind of better, as he's got on antidepressants, but he's not really the way he used to be. He's into having a conversation, but he reacts pretty blank whenever I try to come with something heavy. And the thing is, now that he wants to do things that are good for him, he loves visiting us multiple times a week, and he comes to our house to play board games with my little brother. And almost everyone but me really love it. They love his company, they love talking and playing with him, but I keep feeling like the household is paralyzed. If I'm in the same room as him, I feel like I can't make a noise. I feel like I have to present as hyper respectful for him because a part of my brain is genuinely sure that he's gonna judge me if I step out of line, no matter how irrational and reductive I know it is. And also the living room, which which is the only room in the house big enough to contain the games they like to play in their full form. He has a direct view to the kitchen, which means whenever he's around, I become visibly anxious whenever I try to eat. It's not fair for him, and I know it isn't, but I don't know how to stop. Yesterday, I woke up during the afternoon, and he was in the living room from the moment I woke up, and I just felt numb. I was on my phone in my bed for most of the day, and whenever I went to the living room or the kitchen, I kept feeling like, oh my god, he's paralyzing the house. God, when is he going away? He was playing games with my mom and my brother, and each of them took multiple hours, and they all seemed to be having a great time, but I was just waiting for it all to be over. At one point, we were having dinner, and I just blurted out by saying, I had a dream where I told you I relapsed, and you just did not get what I wanted from you. And I said this in front of my parents and brother. His response was just to say, okay, and we haven't even brought it up ever since. After it went dark outside, he said he was going to leave after the end of this one game, and I said nothing, but in my heart, I was saying yes. But then he got a phone call, and then he came back and told everyone something I couldn't really sort out, mostly because I was not really in my body at the moment. After the game was over and he was very passionately talking about it with my brother, I asked my mom, wasn't he supposed to leave? And she said to me, no, there was a change in plans. He'll stay here for about 2 more hours. And it was basically as bad as the news could be. So I didn't really think before I went, he's gonna stay for 2 more hours? And he was literally a few meters away. Nobody said anything, and he did indeed leave a couple of hours later. I then went to my room and I waited for all of it to be over. Later that night, my mom went into my room to tell me this was inappropriate. He was dealing with a lot too, and it's not his fault. He was trying to help and it got too much because it's even too much for her. She also said that if someone helps you get your life back on track when you're in a state like that, that's it. You owe them for the rest of your life. I know it's messed up, but honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say, but yes, absolutely you're the jerk. I can understand having someone to look to when you're having an anxiety attack or some kind of like depressive episode, or your mental health is out of whack and you've got to reach out to them. Like that really is a good safety net, and it's important for you to have that kind of thing ready if you really do need it. But for you to seriously hold some kind of resentment towards him after he's like, look, I can't take this anymore. This is too much for me and I can't do it. Like instead of going to someone else and being like, hey, I need a new safety net, you decide to be like, wow, he's the enemy. I will never forgive you for this betrayal. And it's like, what in the world are you talking about? There's no betrayal happening here. He's saying that he loves you and that he cares about you, but he cannot emotionally take this. And I'm sure in the beginning he was optimistic. He probably thought to himself, yeah, I can handle this. This is fine. But then when it gets down to the dark and dirty stuff, that's when he's like, oh my God, I can't handle this. Sure, he has sympathy for your situation, but after a while, I can completely understand where he's coming from, because then it's just become too much. Every single day you're having an issue and it's like, oh my God, I'm the only one bearing this burden. This is awful. Like this is why therapy is so important in my opinion, because it not only teaches you how to handle these situations, but you work with someone who's a professional who can point you in this direction. And your cousin, by the way, is not the professional that can help you in these moments. So in my opinion, I think you absolutely are the jerk for holding this resentment towards your cousin, because trust me, based on what I've heard, this is absolutely a one-sided resentment. You're literally staying mad and angry at him, all because he can't listen to all of your stuff every single day. Like, I'm sorry you're having anxiety attacks and you're going through these hard moments, but he is not responsible for your triggers or your mental health. That falls squarely on your shoulders, and in my opinion, he has made his boundaries pretty clear. He can't do this anymore, but he still wants to be in the family. So for you to still be dragging him around and being like, oh, I had a dream about you, as well as you avoiding him in your own home, like all of that is so rude and so toxic. Because if anything, it just proves that yes, you definitely need to keep talking to your therapist, because this behavior is not normal. If he was mad at you, I'm pretty sure there would be like evidence of him being mad at you. But right now, it just seems like he's indifferent and he's just trying to move forward with his life and you're just not letting him. So yes, I have sympathy for your situation. I just think that you're taking this out on the wrong person, because this guy literally did nothing wrong. And I think you need to realize that sooner than later. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law to stop playing poor around my kids because this is having a negative effect on their lives? Here's what happened. My sister-in-law, who we will call Lily, has been close to my family ever since her recent divorce. She's had a bit of a rough time financially since then, so she's really embraced the simple life. She often talks about how she doesn't need much, how money is a distraction, and how having less is really freeing. My kids are 11 and 12 years old, and Lily has started babysitting them sometimes, but I've noticed that after hanging out with her, they make little comments such as, why do we need a big house? Why buy new clothes if we don't really need them? Now, to be clear, I'm all for teaching gratitude, but I also feel it's important for my kids to see that success and comfort don't have to be negative things. I didn't grow up with much, and my husband and I worked hard to build our life so that our kids kids could have opportunities that we didn't have. I didn't want them feeling guilty for what we have, but Lily's influence seems to be making them second guess our lifestyle. When I asked her as gently as I could to stop making these comments around my kids, Lily was hurt and said I was trying to erase her reality and accused me of being materialistic. She said it's her duty to show them the world isn't all about money and things, which I totally get, but I think there's a line between that and making them uncomfortable with our lifestyle. Well, the conversation got heated after Lily called me materialistic, and I snapped at her and I told her to just stop playing poor. Well, now my husband's family thinks I'm overreacting and says that Lily is just sharing her values. My mom then said that I'm being snobby or trying to shelter my kids from other viewpoints. So am I the jerk for telling her to keep her simple living talk away from my kids? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk entirely, because I do kind of understand where you're coming from, and I think the core idea here is that you don't want someone else telling your kids what they should and shouldn't do. And to that end, I completely agree with you. While the subject matter, in my opinion, is not that big of a deal, I do think it's important to set boundaries and be like, hey, this is what you can and can't do with my kids. And any kind of like self-calling in life is completely inappropriate and you just need to stop. So no, in my opinion, I do not think that you're the jerk. My boyfriend cheated on me years ago, and now I'm trying to see if I can make things work. But despite our best efforts, my boyfriend is now saying that he wants to go back on a break, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so maybe I just need to vent, or maybe I need someone to slap me in the face. So internet, please give me the harsh truth. We were close friends in college for 3 years and started dating 5 years ago. After we graduated in 2019, we worked together for a year and have been doing a long-distance relationship since then because of work. For reference, we're both engineers in different sites, and we meet during our off time every 2 months. We navigated early adulthood together, from two broke fresh graduates until him now a vice manager and me building my own consultant. I've always thought of our camaraderie and support for each other's goals as one of the reasons why I want to be with him permanently. For the past 2 years, we've been talking about getting married. He often talks about what kind of family and house he would want to build for me, and I never not believed his intentions to stay with me. That is until earlier this year. Now, let me preface this by saying that I'm pretty conservative with my boundaries. I made this clear since the beginning when we started our long-distance relationship, so that if he didn't share the same views, we could just end things right there. So by all means, make friends with whoever, but don't do things you wouldn't do in front of me. And in the beginning, I enforced this pretty hard, basically being very clingy and very needy. At the end of 2021, the first year of the long-distance relationship was pretty rough. My low self-esteem and insecurity heavily affected our relationship, and it did create a rift. Plus, we had limited time to communicate with each other. It's around this time that he claimed he started to get attracted and became comfortable with this girl who we will call Lisa. And as a result, he slept with her and stayed in a relationship with her for years. That is, until I found out earlier this year. Now, Lisa was the one who spilled the beans. She confronted me nicely after, according to her, my boyfriend had been distant and avoiding her for the past year. He claimed they only slept together once, but he realized his mistake and tried to avoid her without confronting her. And he did move shortly after they slept together. He said it was a one-time mistake, and because Lisa was in HR, he felt he was in too deep to rectify their relationship, and he was afraid of some kind of fallback. After a year of that, he moved to my company so we could meet more often, leaving Lisa but not saying explicitly that he's ending their relationship. Now, against my own principles, I decided to forgive him. I was banking on the fact that he ghosted Lisa just to stay with me. I see him as genuinely owning up and trying to mend things, going with my flow throughout my healing process. He promised to be committed and initiated the final talk between him, me, and Lisa. But still, forgiving an actual affair is hard, and I feel so drained. He said that he regretted that and felt the guilt eating him up from the inside too. The past 10 months have been a roller coaster until finally the pain, anger, and sadness considerably passed, and we can talk and laugh again most of the time. Recently, I was ready to move forward again with our initial plan of getting married, and he said he's always happy with me throughout this. He still loves me, and he's sorry for his inability to make me happy and to offer a certainty to our future. But now he feels pressured because of how hard his parents disagree with our relationship, not to mention his parents' health condition, his new work, and how his affair has drained us. He needs time to sort out his thoughts and initiated a break, all while he grieves his mistakes, and so that I can pursue my dreams without being tied to his condition. I did some work on my self-esteem, and I know I'm not going to pass away from breaking up. I have many opportunities lined up, but somehow if it doesn't happen, I kind of feel like I don't want to be okay. If I'm okay with this, it's as if all these years meant nothing. I'm disappointed in him seemingly giving up right now. I still want to wait and see if there's still a future for us, but at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, you wanted some harsh harsh truth, so I'm gonna give it to you. I think you're a fool for trying to go back to this guy. Why do you think he wants to go on a break, by the way? Like, why do you really think he wants to be like, oh, you should pursue your dreams? It's not because he cares about your well-being. In my opinion, it's so he can go hook up with Lisa or some other woman again. I truly believe that this guy is playing you for a fool. And the fact that you went back to him after he openly cheated on you, in my opinion, says all that you need to know. Because this guy blatantly and obviously cannot be trusted. He broke your trust the moment he had that affair. And in my opinion, I think this is something that I absolutely could never forgive. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that a Halloween costume wasn't that bad and that she needed to educate herself? Because right now, my mom is being ridiculous with my little brother's costume options. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old female, and I just got into a heated argument with my mom over the costume my little brother is wanting to wear for Halloween. Now, my mom is heavily religious. When she's not at work, she is either spending her day doing Bible study in her room, or she is at church. She does not watch any shows or movies, and if she opens up YouTube, it's to watch the live stream from a church. And she was not like this when I was growing up, but it all started when I was around 19 years old. All that is to say is that she has been basically turning down all of the ideas my brother has for Halloween. For reference, my brother is 12 years old. For the last few years, he's been an astronaut of his own choice, but this year he wanted to be Jason. My mom said no because his mask is scary, and I was going over other options with him, and he decided on a plague doctor. Well, my mom saw it and said that it was dark and scary. I tried to explain to her that the costume is not bad, and that it's literally just a doctor who dressed like that due to treating patients with the plague. She then argued that she would buy him a costume that she approved of, but I told her straight up that she would be wasting her money because she cannot force him to wear something that he doesn't want to. Also, as a side note, she isn't even the one taking him trick-or-treating. Our dad is coming into town and he will be taking him. I basically told her that it is not my fault that she is choosing to not understand the actual purpose of a plague doctor and choosing to only look at the appearance of the costume. She then told me, I'm your mother and you can't talk to me like that. You should respect me. Now, I never cussed at her or used any foul language when telling her about the costume, but it was still so frustrating. But I did say, I'm a grown adult and I will talk how I want to, but you obviously are not showing me respect either. I also told her that I've done everything that she wanted up until now, and I'm tired and I wanted her to leave me alone. Now, as a side note, unrelated to the costume, but something that does give more background about my mom and brother are living with me and my spouse. She is not paying any rent, and my parents separated, so my dad is paying her portion since my brother is here. She also argued with me for the master bedroom, and I eventually gave up and let her have it. Now, I do feel a bit guilty since I know she'll be up praying and crying over this. So am I the jerk for getting upset and arguing about this with my mom? Because right now, I'm still incredibly annoyed. No, you're not the jerk at all. You didn't even do anything wrong. Your mom, by the way, is being a complete idiot. For starters, Halloween is an innocent thing. It's not that big of a deal. Kids dress up as characters and then they get candy from door to door. Like seriously, there's nothing bad going on, and anyone who says otherwise, in my opinion, is just weird and out of touch. And it's so funny that your mom's being picky about your brother's costume when she's not even the one that's gonna be taking him out to go trick-or-treating. Like, I'm all for someone trying to be religious and being like, yeah, this is important to me and this is what I believe, or whatever might be going on. Like, more power to you, do whatever you want. But to sit there and be like, oh, it's dark and scary, therefore you can't have it, basically implying that it's demonic if you look a certain way, like that is crazy and it's just so dumb. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for arguing back, because the way your mom is acting, in my opinion, is completely ridiculous. An entitled Karen demands that I teach her kid how to swim after she lets him wander into the deep end, claiming that I'm a bad person by not wanting to do it, and that I should be helping out her kid because it would be the right thing to do. And I'm honestly still blown away by this Karen's attitude, because this level of negligence is honestly absolutely baffling. Here's what happened. Okay, so I often go to the pool once or twice a week just to stay in shape and try to relax. I went there Saturday evening, and the pool I go to has two different pools. A fun one with slides and bubbles and things like that, mainly for children or people who just want to relax. And then we have a real one, where people swim in lanes. Now, in the real one, there are two sides. One for experienced swimmers that is about 3 to 4 meters deep, and one for people who are learning that is pretty shallow. It is a well-known rule that people who can't really swim well can't go in the deep part, and you can't stop or play in there as it's meant for serious swimming. Well, I was swimming in the deep part, and while I was doing a backstroke, I felt my hand hit something. Well, I turned around and I saw a young kid that was maybe 7 years old. I told him that he shouldn't be there because people were going pretty fast, and he could get hurt by other swimmers. But while I was talking to him, I noticed that he wasn't swimming very well. He was doing weird movements and barely keeping his head above the water. So I got out of the pool with with him and I look for his mom. Now at this pool, people that accompany children but don't swim can get inside without paying and just sit around the pool, which is what this mom was doing. We then find her looking at her phone and I tell her that it was pretty dangerous for her child to be in the deep end of the pool when he didn't know how to swim well and he could get hit by other swimmers. She then looks up, clearly annoyed, and then tells me it's okay, he's just a kid. So I told her that I wasn't upset at him, but I was just concerned for his safety. She then told me that if I really was concerned for his safety, I would have taught him how to swim instead of making him get out, and that it would be safer for him if I taught him. I told her that wasn't my role, but she started saying that that's not very nice for him, and that I should help out a child when I saw that he was in distress. I told her that I wouldn't because for starters, I'm not qualified to teach children. Not to mention this is a huge liability, and I don't want to be responsible for a boy's life. And I paid to do this, and I'm just here to relax. She then started telling me that I was selfish for not sharing my skills, that I swam well enough to teach children, and that she wasn't asking for a lot of my time, that I should be happy to help others and all this other garbage. But I just said no again, and she looked at me and said, I just can't believe this, while also shaking her head. Well, trust me, Karen, I can't believe this either, because the level of entitlement that I saw from her truly blew my mind. Yeah, this is actually unbelievably unsafe. It's not even funny. You mean to tell me that she left her kid in the pool to go swim in the deep end, and she's not sitting there watching or at least like helping him swim or something like that? Like she would rather have a stranger take care of her kid instead of having an active role in making sure that he doesn't drown? Like what is wrong with this lady? She should never be at a pool ever again. That is so unsafe and it's so unfair for the person literally just trying to swim around. And it's honestly crazy that she really tried to guilt trip you into like teaching her son how to swim, when in reality that is something you need to teach a kid before he even steps foot in the water. Like that should be closely monitored, not just like, okay, go have fun. Like that is crazy to me. So yeah, this Karen was super irresponsible, and the fact that she did not care if her kid was like swimming or drowning and was expecting you to teach him how to swim, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for sleeping in on a family vacation to Disney World and effectively pissing off my entire family? Because right now things are not the same and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and recently I went on a family vacation that resulted in basically all my cousins cutting ties with me and vice versa. My fiance and I were invited by a few of my cousins to go to Disney World with them. So we took some unpaid time off of work, we booked our flights and bought park tickets. On the first day, the plan was to go to Epcot, but I decided to sleep in, and my fiance kindly stayed back at the resort to wait for me. Once we made it there, I texted a chat with a couple of my cousins, notifying them and requesting that we meet up. Well, we never did, though we did all make plans to meet for dinner at about 8 o'clock p.m. However, at 6:55 p.m., my cousin, who we will call Brad, reached out to me to inform me that they were actually changing dinner to 7 o'clock p.m. And at that point, we were in line for a ride. I communicated this and I didn't get a reply, and then anxiously added that they could go without us if they wanted. Well, that's exactly what they did. And I'd been disappointed that we hadn't met up the entire day, and was even more disappointed that they decided to move up dinner. The next day, the plan was to go to Magic Kingdom, and I once again slept in and got to the park later than everyone else. This time though, we were able to meet up with everyone. However, at some point after getting off of a ride, everyone had left without my fiance and I, even though we were on the same ride, and they would have had to wait maybe a single minute for us. This left me extremely annoyed. After some time, I recalled that I had Brad's location, and I checked it only to find that they had left the park and gone to a bar without us. Well, feeling incredibly hurt, I then created a group chat with all 8 people to explain that I wanted to spend time with everyone and asked that they let me know when they were doing things so that my fiance and I could join them. They were receptive to this. However, the trend soon continued on. Additionally, we failed to get access to one of the bars we were going to meet them at because the elevator wouldn't take us to the floor, and we were also late for dinner because we let everyone else get ahead of us and missed the bus. We were also blamed for a prank that someone was pulling within the suite, where a new victim would find a puddle of coffee under their pillow every night. Eventually, I reached out to my cousin, who we will call Josh, who seemed to be the source of this hostility, and I simply asked if there was any kind of issue. He then said that our tardiness bothered him, and we ended up getting into it for a bit with no real resolution. On the last day, they all had dinner without inviting us. Before this, I had texted to ask what they were up to, and they replied that they were stuck in the rain. And when I pressed further, they doubled down, and I just took the hint. We left the next day early in the morning to catch our flights, and I sent a text saying goodbye, expressing expressing thanks and wishing everybody a safe trip. A few of them replied, but I would say that things were definitely left on bad terms. And I thought it was over, but it honestly still keeps me up sometimes. And to this day, I still cannot figure out what went wrong or if I'm to blame. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? Okay, you're probably not gonna like me saying this, but yes, you are the jerk. You slept in literally 2 of the days that they were trying to go out and do something as a family. They invited you to go to Disney with them, not for you to be late all because you're like, oh, I'm gonna sleep in. Like seriously, just set an alarm on your phone and call it good. Or even set up like 20 alarms, whatever it takes to wake up. Like if I had somebody I had invited to be a part of my group when I went to Disney World and they didn't show up on time for anything, I would feel incredibly offended and super annoyed. Like at that point, I would just think to myself, yeah, they definitely don't want to spend any time with me. So yes, you absolutely are the jerk in this situation because the way you blew off your cousins is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my friend to stop bringing up religion so incessantly anytime we visit our other friend who's in a mental health hospital? Because right now, there's been a falling out in our friend group, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I've been a part of a friend group since middle school and the beginning of high school. One of my friends, who we will call Sarah, has been deeply depressed for the past 2 years. She is seeing a lot of doctors and has been on many different medications, and recently she was admitted into a mental hospital. Through that very hard time, we all try to support her as much as possible, which includes us going to visit her at least twice a week. Well, she's been in the hospital for around a month and a half now, and we've gone to visit her many times. Now, each time we visit her, one of my friends that I will call Mary talks about religion. For context, we were all in a very private Catholic school, and while some of us don't believe in God or aren't very religious, many of my friends are believers. And I know it was Mary's way of trying to be supportive and to help Sarah according to what she personally believes, but it sometimes felt a bit insensitive. She would say a lot of things like, I'll pray for you, God will help you, and this was every time Sarah talked about struggling or when Sarah mentioned how bored she was. Mary would then say, oh, you could read the Bible. And yes, I know she meant to be nice and wanted to help, but it felt a bit weird, especially since we all know that Sarah doesn't believe in God and has had some bad experiences with religion in the past. The last time we all went to see her, which was 2 days ago, Sarah mentioned that it had been a really bad week, and she had been having these really dark thoughts, if you know what I mean. Well, when she told us that, Mary immediately screamed. She said to her, you can't do that, you'll go to Hades. Now, considering the state that Sarah was in and what she had just told us, I felt like that was the worst possible reaction. Now, I was a bit angry at her, so I looked at her and I said something like, could you please stop bringing up religion for 2 seconds? Not all of us care about that. And after that, she got upset and ended up leaving the hospital. While most of my friends agreed with me and think it was inappropriate of Mary to say that, some are defending her, which has created a lot of tension in our group, and a fight like this is the last thing that Sarah needs, I think. So I tried to talk to Mary to make things better and tried to explain to her why I said what I said, but she then got super angry at me and said that I was disrespecting her religion. I feel bad about all of this, partly because Mary was a good friend, so I'm sad that we're fighting, but also because the situation is making it worse for Sarah. Now, I really want to fix this, so if I was in the wrong, please tell me, and I'll try to understand and apologize to Mary, and if I'm not sure what else I can do to make her understand that I'm not insulting her or her religion. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk for telling Mary off, because what she was doing is not helping. Literally, she's just making things worse, and now your friend group is having some kind of like fallout all because of her weird attitude. And that is not fair for your friend who's literally in a mental health hospital. So no, you're not the jerk for calling her out. She shouldn't be doing that anyways. This is not the time to be injecting that into Sarah's like situation. If anything, now's the time to listen to her and be supportive. Like, she's in the right place for this kind of thing, so she's clearly getting the help necessary to make it through this. And I can understand if Mary said this maybe once or twice, but now it's becoming so incessant that literally anyone would get annoyed by this. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not pushing for my wife to have a bigger role in my daughter's wedding? Because as it stands right now, my wife, who is my daughter's stepmom, literally isn't doing anything at the moment. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my ex and I weren't together very long when we had our daughter, who we will call Riley. We broke up while my ex was still pregnant, and a year and a half later, my ex married her husband, who we will call Philip. Riley was with me every Tuesday and then every other weekend with split holidays. As she lived with her mom and Philip more, he became a father figure to her. She doesn't call him dad, but has made it clear that she thinks that she has 2 dads. I've never been threatened by Philip and have a lot of respect for him. He, my ex, and I all get along really well. Fast forward, and I married my wife when Riley was 13 years old, and while the two of them do get along, they aren't as close as she is to Philip. I know she doesn't consider her another mother figure, and I was okay with this, as Philip had been in my daughter's life longer and was around her. Riley was always very polite and considerate towards my wife, and I could tell that my wife was hurt that they weren't closer, but I didn't want to push the issue. Eventually, my wife and I had a son together. Fast forward to now, and Riley is in her mid-20s and is getting married. I'm walking her down the aisle with Philip on her other arm. My son is going to be a junior groomsman, and my ex is being escorted by her father down the aisle as well. Riley's siblings from her mom's side are also in the wedding party. When my wife asked Riley what her role was, my daughter said she wanted her to sit up front and she'll be in family photos. My wife asked about a special dress, and Riley said they could go shopping together, but she didn't care what she wears. She doesn't have to match the bridal party or anything. Well, my wife is very hurt and wants a larger role in the wedding. She wants to walk our son down the aisle, but Riley said her sister on her mom's side, who's very close in age with him, is walking with him as they're a junior bridesmaid. My wife kept suggesting other ways that she could walk down the aisle, and Riley gently shut her down. I wasn't here for the conversation and only found out about it after the fact. My wife then came to me and says I need to convince my daughter to give her some role in the wedding, but I simply say that it's my daughter's day, and I'm not going to tell her who gets what role. She will have the opportunity to do mother of the groom stuff if and when our son ever gets married. She said that Philip has a big role, and he even gets to dance with my daughter at the wedding, but I pointed out that Philip has been in her life since she was 10 months old, and he literally helped raise her. But Riley and my wife don't have that dynamic. My wife is now very upset with me and says that I'm enabling my daughter in excluding her, but I seriously don't feel that this is my place. So am I the jerk for not pushing the matter more? Because right now I'm still incredibly annoyed. No, there's nothing to push here. In my opinion, your wife is being weird. Riley literally does not have the connection with her that she does with Philip. So for your wife to be like, wow, this isn't fair, you need to push for this, I could do all this other stuff, like that's super obnoxious, and it's like, oh my god, please take the hint. So truly, the way your wife is acting is super weird, and in my opinion, it's just really embarrassing overall. Am I the jerk for returning my daughter's graduation money, all because she dropped out of college halfway through the first semester? Here's what happened. Okay, so we held a graduation party for my daughter, and most of our friends and family came. Even those who couldn't attend sent cards with money. My daughter had received a large scholarship that she had worked hard to get and had been accepted to our local university. Now, I paid into a college fund for her for most of her life, but that only covered the tuition. Room and board, fees, living expenses, and books all had to be covered from her savings, student loans, and the gifts that she received for graduation. Those gifts were over $3,000 and helped ensure that she would be able to attend. Well, halfway through the first semester, she decided college wasn't for her. Not that it was too hard, she just didn't want to go. Now she wants to drop out after this semester and work on becoming a bartender. And that's fine, I mean, it's her life, she is over 18 years old, but the gifts that she got were for college. And right now, I'm making her return the money, what's left of it at least, because it was a sacrifice for many of the people who gave it to her. So truly, am I the jerk for making my daughter do this? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I absolutely think you are the jerk, because this was a graduation present. It wasn't a going to college present, it was a gift that she was given after she graduated high school. So for you to be like, oh, you're not going to college? Time to return everything that you just got from people. That was a sacrifice and you're wasting it. Like, what are you doing? That's so weird. It's also so controlling and so toxic. There's no reason to act that way, and I just can't understand someone actually doing that to their kid. Like, if I gave a gift or gave some money to someone who was graduating, and then their mom comes back and says, we need to return this, they're not going to college, I would be like, wait a second, what are you doing? I gave this to him because it was a graduation gift, which by the way is not that unusual, especially when you consider that some people just never go to college, which also is completely fine. So yes, you definitely are the jerk for forcing her to do this, because she absolutely deserves to have those gifts. Am I the jerk for refusing to drive nearly 2 hours just to deliver a box of chocolates to my boss, which resulted in me getting kicked out of his studio? Because right now I'm very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female and I work for an artist in LA. Before I went on a trip to France, I offered to bring my boss something as a gift because we have a friendly working relationship. He asked for chocolate and he even gave me $100 to buy it. Well, I bought the chocolates and messaged him when I got back, but he suggested that I drive to his place 45 minutes away on a Sunday just to give it to him. Now, I felt it was a bit much to drive that far outside of working hours just to deliver chocolates, so I delayed it, thinking that I would give them to him the next time that I saw him. Throughout the week, his other assistant and I tried to coordinate a time for the delivery, but plans plans kept falling through. Once because she didn't respond, and another because she messaged me too late the day before, and my day was already full. Finally, I went to work this morning on a Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, but in my rush to be on time, I forgot the chocolates. When I arrived, my boss was silently pressuring me to go back and get them. He turned what felt like a request into an order. He was acting really authoritative and strange. I was cleaning the studio, and when I finished, he gave me an ultimatum. Either I drive back and get the chocolates, which would be a 1.5 hour drive round trip in LA traffic, and I needed to do this right then and there, or we were done working together. Feeling like the whole situation was absurd, I tried to talk to him, but he got aggressive and kicked me out of the studio, all without paying me for the day. He said he didn't care about the past and just wanted his chocolates or we are done. And at that point, I felt like a peon. What started as a friendly gesture turned into an order. I was willing to deliver the chocolates the next day, but he insisted on immediate delivery and kicked me out when I questioned his reaction and why I felt weird just to be forced to drive 1.5 hours just for that. He literally did not even want to have a calm discussion. So am I the jerk for not driving back to get the chocolates and refusing his ultimatum? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Yeah, your boss sounds like a piece of garbage, and the fact that he expected you to drop everything that you were doing that day and go after these stupid chocolates right then and there, that in my opinion is so weird and so toxic. Anytime a boss gives you an ultimatum, especially when it's something ridiculous, for me that's a big red flag that yes, I really do need to get out of here. Now you could have taken the other route of being like, oh okay, I can see this is really important to you, so I'll go get it. And then after that, like look for a new job right away. But I also like the fact that you stood your ground and said, no, I'm not doing this. This is incredibly weird. So no, you're not the jerk for putting your foot down, because this guy's demands were absolutely unacceptable. My entitled friend has moved into my house and has yet to do anything with their life, expecting me to bankroll their entire situation while also demanding that I save money at the same time. And I'm honestly just wanting them to leave because I'm so exhausted and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I let my friend move in because they literally had nowhere else to go. And this is all a lot on me because I should have talked more about what I expected. I am okay with helping them out, but I feel like they just expect me to bankroll them. I have bought a lot of stuff because they told me that we need it, and a lot of it, yes, comes in handy, but we could honestly do without it. I ask them what they want when I make a grocery order, and so because of that, my bill is more than twice what it was when it was just me. But then they go out and order DoorDash all the time, even though they say they don't have money to help out with the expenses. I am so broke, and my car payment is past due, and then they just sit there and try to tell me what to do. In fact, tonight, they told me to get a cheaper car insurance to save money. They also told me that we just absolutely need an expensive tool. They apparently started a furniture flipping business, and they would need this tool for that specific business. And they also said they're saving all their money to buy a truck because they need that for the furniture flipping business they haven't even started yet. For reference, they work freelance, and they had told me they were paying $350 a month in rent in the place they were at before, so I thought they would at least be able to contribute a little bit. Now, they have bought furniture because they said we needed it, but again, while it is good to have, what is important right now is being able to pay the bills, and that should come before anything else. I have a full-time, very high-stress job, and we are very short-handed right now. I suck at setting boundaries, and this entire situation is horrible for my mental health. I just want them gone, but they have nowhere else to go. I'm afraid to try and talk to them. There have already been several things in my house that either broke or are not working since they've been here. I don't think it's on purpose, but they are not gentle, and they don't seem to have respect for my stuff. I feel like they think I'm just gonna sacrifice everything else to buy them the stuff that they want because they think they deserve my money and deserve to tell me what I should buy for my house or for them instead of letting me decide for myself. What should I do? Oh man, if this was me, I would have already started the eviction process. Look, I totally get it that this is your friend and you care about them and they have supposedly nowhere else to go, but from what you're describing, this person is clearly taking advantage of you. Seriously, like think about it for a second. They don't contribute to the house, they're asking you to buy everything and yet they DoorDash food all the time. They're breaking stuff and things are going missing, and they're saying they're gonna do something with their life, but then again, they don't. And it's like, wait a second, what are we doing here? For starters, yes, you absolutely should not have let them in your house without some kind of like clear expectation, but also the fact that they're now here and still not doing anything is more than enough reason to be like, listen, you either pay rent or you have gotta go, because what you're describing right now does not sound reasonable. And in my opinion, I think it definitely is time for them to move out. My entitled family have found a way to completely ruin my birthday for quite literally the 5th year in a row. And even though my birthday is so close to Christmas, and I've dealt with this for so so many years, I finally have decided to put my foot down and say that I want a separate celebration, resulting in some of the most petty and passive-aggressive treatment I've ever received in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so my birthday is December 28th, and my parents have consistently ignored it throughout my entire life. We usually visit family that lives about 4 hours away during the holidays, or more often than not, the weekend after the holidays if the holiday is in the middle of the week. This means almost every year, we're up there on the 28th. Sometimes it's not so bad, because maybe the 28th is on a Friday or a Sunday, and we do the Christmas celebration on Saturday, but even then, it still goes completely uncelebrated, and I'm lucky to even get a happy birthday from them. I've expressed my dislike of this subtlety throughout my entire life, but not as directly as I should have until now, and even now, I'm still not sure what to say. And the thing is, they did the same thing at my wedding. We announced our engagement, and my sister decided to get engaged and announced hers right after us, and hold the ceremony in the same year, just slightly after what we would be doing. Some of my family came in from across the country for her wedding, but not for mine. I have a sister who was born in early January and pretends to relate, but as far as I can remember, we've never had to celebrate the birth of what many people consider to be the Lord and Savior on the same day as when we celebrate her birthday. Mine, on the other hand, is usually a crapshoot on if I'm going to have a birthday or not, because here's how it usually plays out. We go visit my family the first weekend after Christmas. We stay at their house with my entire family, and this is a big house with many rooms as we do have a big family. The whole family is there when my birthday rolls around. We wake up, maybe one person acknowledges my birthday and even says happy birthday to begin with, and if nobody else is around, that's all I'm gonna get from anybody all day. If others are around and hear them say that, they will throw out a half-hearted, "Oh hey, happy birthday," and then move on to talk about Christmas dinner, when we're gonna open Christmas presents, how excited we are to watch the two kids open a mountain of gifts, etc. My birthday having yet again effectively been overshadowed by that long-haired stranger from 2,000 years ago that nobody has ever met. Now, I know I sound bitter and probably selfish, but if you knew anything about me, you would know that things like this don't usually bother me. For my entire life, my birthday has been smashed together with Christmas. So many celebrations, or lack thereof, have passed by without phasing me. Many gifts have been forgotten, or worse, they would do a, "Oh, here's your Christmas present and also your birthday present." Also, many well wishes have gone, well, completely unwished. Again, this stuff used to not faze me at all, because I really was happy with just a simple happy birthday, and that's all I would ever want, and it would make up for anything else. But this year, my parents have almost purposefully gone out of their way to ruin everything for me. Now, if you don't know, Christmas this year is on a Wednesday, making the 28th on a Saturday. It's rare that my birthday's on a Saturday, but it happened like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was awful, specifically because Saturday is always the chosen delayed Christmas day. My entire family was there. My wife wished me happy birthday, my parents did, I think maybe my sister did, and that was it. The entire rest of the day, my birthday was just Christmas to everyone but my wife, who went out of her way any way that she could to try and make me feel special. She asked why I wasn't really that upset about it until now, and I said I guess I was just used to it my whole life. But now that it's literally my family's Christmas day on my birthday, which happens every now and then, I was pretty disheartened. Watching a couple of entitled, somewhat spoiled brats who already have everything in the world open up a mountain of gifts on your birthday would probably hurt your feelings as well. So, knowing that the 28th was a Saturday this year, I told my mom when we were doing the family holiday planning if she could please try and schedule our trip to the family the weekend after Christmas or even after my birthday. That way we would be doing Christmas on like New Year's or something like that. She said sure, and I said it doesn't matter what day, just not the Saturday after Christmas. Any day but my birthday. My wife even chimed in and said that I haven't had a birthday in over 5 years. Please don't plan it for his birthday again. And my mom just pretended to care and said, okay, I'll try my best. Well, she then calls a few days ago and said my sister can only get her stepson the weekend after Christmas. So we will probably break it up, and they will likely go up on the 28th and we'll go on the following weekend. And I'm thinking to myself, fine, my entire family won't be there for Christmas, but hey, I get to see my sister all the time. This is not that big of a deal. At least I can have actual Christmas with my parents, celebrate my birthday with my wife, then go see my family the following weekend for delayed Christmas, right? But unfortunately, I was completely wrong. Today, I was in the neighborhood, so I stopped at my parents' house. We got to talking, and my mom brought up our Christmas plans. She said to me, hey, since we are breaking it up, we're probably only going to go up once instead of both times. Is that okay? Now, not knowing what she was getting at, I said to her, sure, and then I said, okay, well, why would that be an issue? She then said to me, okay, since your sister has her stepson son on the 28th. We'll probably go up with her then as well. Already, I was a little disheartened because somehow she found a way to do the near exact opposite of what I had asked and how we had organized the family Christmas to be on the 28th. But I didn't know the extent of it. She said she wanted to go up only the one time, and she chose that one time to be with my sister, and goes on to tell me that that's when my uncles, my aunts, my niece and nephew, and pretty much the entire family will be there. Right then, flashbacks to my wedding silently play in my head. So, quite literally, the one thing I asked for Christmas was to be able to have a birthday of some kind, and she does the exact opposite and finds a way to make my entire family forget about my birthday once again. I'll be lucky if I even get a text message from any of them, since they'll all be up there together without my wife and we usually disregard our phones when we're up there. I know this sounds bratty or even self-absorbed, but you have to understand, I have been dealing with this crap my entire life and barely said a word to anybody. She then asked me what I want in my food, and I say no dairy because it sets my wife's stomach on fire. But then she proceeds to put dairy in everything and scold me for not being grateful. She asked one year what kind of coat I wanted, and I said any classic button-up pea coat. It doesn't matter, just one that doesn't have a zipper. Well, she goes out of her way to get me a coat with a zipper so she can see if I'll be thankful enough. It's like my entire life she has purposefully done these small things and just slightly messed up because she wants to. And I'm not sure, but it seems like she wants to test my gratitude or something like that. My wife describes it best when she says, well, your mom knows exactly what she's doing when she just completely disregards your wishes. And it's always just small enough so that you look like a jerk if you say anything about it, but also big enough to let you know that she doesn't respect your wishes, even after you were directly clear about them. So now this will be something like the 5th birthday in a row that will be ignored. It will be completely overshadowed by Christmas, except this time I won't even be with my family because I made a promise to myself, and I'm not gonna let them rope me into the lie of saying, oh, just go up on your birthday, it'll be great. Because you know what, at least I'll be with my wife. And even though we have a contributed total of maybe $50 to our name, she has promised to make my 34th birthday very special, considering that my 29th through 33rd were completely ignored, and all the ones before that were at the very least uncelebrated. So truly, I believe her. As long as she says happy birthday, and I know she will, and as long as I get to wake up next to her, it will probably be the best birthday I've ever had since the pandemic. I love that woman with all of my heart. And for anyone who would say that 34 is too old to care about your birthday, you can just forget it. You are special no matter what your age, and the day you were born into this world is very, very important. To you Christmas babies out there, though I can never truly relate, please know that you are not alone, as my family makes a habit of delaying Christmas to my birthday. So say a prayer or something like that to that hippie who was supposed to bring about world peace or whatever, and then spend the rest of the day focusing on yourself, because trust me, you absolutely deserve it. Wow, your mom is super passive-aggressive and incredibly petty. She literally went out of her way to ruin your birthday once again. Like, this really is so awful because she knew what she was doing. Like, your wife is 100% correct. She's doing it just enough to like piss you off, but also so little that if you do freak out about it, you're gonna look like the jerk and she's gonna look like the victim. Like, this is all pure manipulation in my mind, and that's all this will ever be. So the fact that she can't even follow this one wish that you had, that you just wanted to have a birthday of your own, in my opinion says everything you need to know about her, because you know for a fact now without any kind of shadow of a doubt that she's not gonna respect your wishes. She's done this many times, and it sounds like your family has slighted you over and over again. So hopefully you stick to your values and you say, no, I'm not showing up, because the way your family is treating you and your birthday, in my opinion, is super dismissive and incredibly disrespectful. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled grandma keeps failing her children and then ends up suing one of her daughters after her daughter denies her the right at seeing her grandkids. And I'm honestly still blown away by this situation because my grandmother truly is a terrible person. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's some clarification that you need to know to understand the whole story just a bit better. My wife has a half-sister. My maternal grandmother had my mom with her first husband. This was all not planned, but fast forward 8 years later and she cheated on him with a family friend, and then my aunt was born. Now, besides my grandma being an absolutely naive person, her now husband, who is the father of my aunt, is also an absolute jerk because he knows how to perfectly manipulate her. And trust me, there are so many stories I could tell about them, it is absolutely insane. But let's just focus on this one first. This all happened in the middle of 2005. I was only 6 years old back then, so I don't know all the details, details, but I do know enough to tell this story. I have an older sister by 2 years and a younger brother who was born 5 years and 9 months after me. Just when my brother was born, my mom, of course, had a lot going on with 3 kids. Well, my grandmother demanded my mom to drive me and my sister over to her, which, by the way, this is a 2-hour drive one way. And this is all so she can hang out with us for a weekend. Mind you, she was not working, she was living off her husband's money, all while my mom had 3 children and quite a big house to take care of. My mother told my grandma that she could absolutely pick us up, but my mom cannot drive 4 hours in total with my little brother, since she definitely would have to take him with her, especially when driving my sister and me over there. Now, she could either do that, or she could of course also come visit us over the weekend. Well, my grandma refused, and that's when the nightmare began. She didn't understand why my mom wanted to drive a total of 8 hours, 4 hours to bring us and 4 hours to pick us up. My parents then cut off contact with her after that because she also did many other harmful things to my mom's mental health. But trust me, that's another story for another time. Anyways, many years later, my mom and grandma talked it out and we had contact with her once again. And this was just for a little bit, and honestly, it was good that she lives quite far away from us. Being with her and her husband for 1 week was an absolute nightmare when I was 17, and I very much regretted this stay. When contact came back, my grandmother often whined about how horrible it was for her to not see us for a few years, and she very much regrets this time. Well, fast forward to 2017, which is 5 years since my mom and grandma talked things out, and I just finished up high school, and my maternal grandfather was very sick. He was suffering from cancer. It was then that my grandmother asked my mom if she could tell him that my mom's sister was not his daughter. And yes, this is exactly as bad as you think it is. She kept all of that a secret for maybe, 40 years? And she took a lot of money from my grandfather to support his supposed daughter. You know, the daughter that isn't even his. Well, my mom and my aunt both said that would be very selfish for her to do, especially when he's right at the edge of passing away. She agreed and told them both that she would keep it a secret. Well, a few days later, my mother enters my grandpa's house and he confronts her with a letter he had gotten from my grandma, his ex-wife, about my aunt not being his daughter. Apparently, he always suspected this, but did not try to confirm anything. Now, he gladly was not mad at my mom for never telling him, because he knows that she was just manipulated by her mother to not tell anyone. Not even me and my siblings knew about this before this letter, because my mom didn't want us kids to accidentally tell grandpa. And sadly enough, he ended up passing away a few weeks after this letter. Now, of course, my mom and aunt were super pissed off at her, but my grandma did not see her mistake. So my aunt also decided to cut ties with her this time, which is something my mom also did, of course, with me and my siblings blocking her on social media and deciding to block her phone number. And as you can probably guess, she also started a fight with my aunt now. My aunt has 2 daughters who were about the same age as my siblings and me when my mom and grandma had their first cutoff. And my grandmother absolutely did not want to lose these 2 like she did with my siblings and me. I mean, we don't really have a connection to her, obviously, since we didn't see her for years, and then also only for a few short times. My aunt said that she does not want her to be in contact with the children right now, and believe it or not, my grandma actually freaking sued her for taking away her grandchildren. And it's like, excuse me? You didn't help raise them, and also you live 1 hour away from them. Why in the world do you think you have the right to see them if their parents decide that you're not good for them? Sadly, the judge also was a grandmother of a child and had some kind of compassion for my grandma, so she gave her all the help that she could. So basically, as a result, my cousins had to write her letters once a month, and they weren't even close to being able to write yet. So of course, my aunt wrote those letters. And trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg with my grandmother, because she has caused nothing but problems in my family. Yeah, your grandma sounds like an instigator and honestly not a good person. Who in their right mind would sue a family member to see their grandkids, especially when the parents are like, yeah, you're not good for my family? Like, that is ridiculous, and there's honestly no precedent for that. I just can't believe that a judge actually would fall for that and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna help you out. So truly, I really hope you don't have to deal with your grandma for very long, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is completely insane. Am I the jerk for not wanting to show up for my mom's husband's family after they spent years making fun of my biological father? Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female, and my mom has been married to her husband for 7 years, and my dad has been out of my life for almost as many years. But even after my mom and Ted got married, he wasn't a big part of my life. Ted is not his real name. You see, my dad is mentally ill. There's a family history of it on his side of the family, and he's got it bad and isn't capable of being a good dad or really a reliable person. Last I remember of him, he couldn't really take care of himself. But, and this is a big thing, I still love him, and I have some good memories of him. Ted, as a stepfather, and I will be calling him my mom's husband, is really deserving of more or less depending on your view overall. He provides for me, he calls me his daughter, he tries to spend time with me, offer to adopt me, and provide for me well into the future. I said no to the adoption and didn't really let the incentive of being provided for long-term sway me. My reason for this is due to how often he talks garbage about my dad, and my mom lets him, so I have issues with her as well. But the focus of my post is more about Ted and his extended family. Ted is always so fast to remind me that my dad chose illness over me, that he has never paid child support and has a lot of child support debt to his name. He discouraged me looking at photos of my dad or his side of the family and would tell me that he was a better choice for a dad and his family were a way better family overall. Ted's family also repeat this to me a lot. I mean, I get reminded every time I see them that Ted stuck around, Ted stepped up, and that Ted isn't some crazy waste of life, which is what they call my dad. Well, last year it was very clear that I had inherited the mental illness gene. My mental illness is OCD, and I've got it really bad because of it. A part of me always knew that I was different. I mean, I had strict rules for stuff most people didn't think twice about, like making my bed, writing, bathing, or showering, and I also freaked out a lot if I couldn't make things fit into my school binder, or if I couldn't fit my books or video games on my shelf. My mom and Ted saw it too, but my mom didn't want to believe that I could be ill, and Ted actually believed that his influence could prevent this. A crisis at the start of the year proved it all wrong, and I finally got diagnosed. I even spent some time being an inpatient because of how bad it got. When I got home and Ted was alone with me, or me and my half-siblings, I would hear his family talk about me in ways that made me so uncomfortable. They actually said that rejecting him made me sick because it pushed me more towards my dad than Ted. Ted's parents wanted to have a big family dinner yesterday, and I was told repeatedly that they wanted me there, and I was told by them directly and by Ted and my mom. But you know what? I chose not to go, and I said that I could not get off my planner right now, which is completely true, but I just knew I couldn't be around them. My mom and Ted weren't happy, and they said that I had no trouble going off my planner to see my grandparents or my 3 uncles and cousins. They then told me that I was being totally unfair to Ted's family by not showing up and treating them like they're not family. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, for starters, you're definitely not the jerk for not wanting to show up for this stupid side of your family, because the second Ted actually said that your dad chose illness was the very moment that I realized that Ted and his family are a bunch of narcissistic weirdos. Nobody chooses a legitimate mental illness, and I'm not talking about people who like make up a mental illness just to look for attention. I'm talking about people who actually have some struggles that they cannot deal with. People who have lifelong problems that just completely derail their entire life without some kind of like medical intervention. Those types of mental illnesses. Like seriously, why would anybody in their life choose that? So the fact that your stepfather thinks that's a choice and that your dad decided to be that way is just insane in my opinion. So no, that side of your family is awful. They are incredibly toxic, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be distancing myself from them. Am I the jerk for saying that I'm gonna sue both the school and the family of my daughter's bully after my daughter's been bullied nonstop while at school? Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband and I have an 11-year-old daughter who's been going through some severe bullying at school, and it just keeps getting worse. It started off with just name calling, but has gotten worse over the past couple of weeks. For context, she is adopted, which is something we've always been open about and celebrated as part of her story. But recently, some kids found out about her adoption and started saying horrible things, telling her stuff like her birth mother didn't want her. They tell her that she's unwanted and that she is a reject, which is not the case. Her mother loved her very much, to the point that she literally gave her life so that we could have her. Now, if this wasn't bad enough, a few days ago, she came home in tears with her hair butchered. They had apparently cut off 2 inches of her ponytail while in class, and they were all taunting her with names and laughing at her reaction. They will then follow her through the halls to make fun of her on a regular basis. Both my husband and myself have been in touch with the school about the bullying more times than I can count. I emailed, I called them, I even showed up in person to speak with teachers and the principal, but all I got were empty promises that they would look into it. Nothing changed, and my daughter's mental health has taken a hit. She's anxious, she's struggling to sleep, and now she begs us not to send her to school. Finally, out of frustration and feeling like no one was taking this seriously, we reached out to a lawyer to explore legal actions against both the school and the bully's family. And funny enough, only when the school and her parents learned that we were considering a legal action action did they finally start to act. Suddenly, the school calls me to say they're moving the bully out of my daughter's class and claim they had a talk with her. The girl's parents also reached out, saying that they had a talk with their daughter and they promised it would stop. But honestly, I don't believe them. It feels like they're saying this just to get me to back off and avoid the legal consequences. I worry that once the dust settles, things will go right back to how they were, and my daughter will still be dealing with all of this. My family thinks that I should give the school and the parents a chance, especially now that they're finally taking action, but I feel that all of this is just for show. So am I the jerk for moving forward with legal action, even though the school and the bully's parents now claim that they're handling it? Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. As someone who got bullied a lot in like elementary school and middle school, I have a lot of sympathy for your daughter and for you as a family. Because in most cases, at least in my situation, the bully was never punished properly, and this stuff absolutely kept happening. Because you're right, once the dust settles, it's just gonna happen again. So no, you're not the jerk if you did want to move forward by suing these people, because the way they treated your daughter, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. My crazy religious parents have been following my boyfriend and I's every single move, claiming that God was telling them where we were, as they have literally shown up in places that we've been at, despite the fact that we don't even live in the same city. And I'm honestly so freaked out that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I live on my own out of my parents' house. I have a bit of a situationship going on with my friend who we will call David. We had a fling a few months ago, and now it's kind of happening again. It started out just hanging out and enjoying David's company, then it slowly turned into more again. The thing is, my parents knew about the first fling. David used to be inseparable from my dad. They were like father and son in a way. That is, until David and I had our fling. Now, my dad is trying to control him, telling him he is to have no contact with me outside of a group chat that we're all in, which is something that the both of us think is really stupid. A few weeks ago, we were hanging out and we went to Five Below to get snacks and just to hang out. And while we were there, my parents walked in. Now, here's the thing. They don't live in the same city as me. I live about 20 minutes away from them, and they just randomly showed up at the store right by my house. They claimed it was to find batteries, but at that point, my dad confronted David and said that he told him not to be around me, and he told me that he isn't going to care anymore and not to go crying to him when I get heartbroken. My mom then texted me later saying that it was totally the Holy Spirit revealing that something was happening so they could intervene. Now, I'm kind of glad that that happened, because after David and I left, that opened up a conversation about what's going on between us. We both enjoy our company and we both have feelings for each other, but we are taking it slow. But while we were talking, my dad is texting me 3-page essays on why I'm stupid for not doing as he says, and that he is no longer invested. He told me David only wants me for one thing and doesn't care about me as much as he does, and that if David is in love with me, he would ask him for permission to date his daughter and play by his rules. David then told me that he does really care about me and that it's a lie that he doesn't. Anyways, we decided to continue hanging out, especially since my dad said he no longer cares. We both have annual passes to Disneyland, so we decided to go together after work. While we were there, my mom and dad texted me asking if I was at Disneyland, and I just ignored the text messages. We were there till closing, and as we were walking out, my dad walked up to us with a Starbucks bag and asked if we could talk. Now, David kept walking and said no, and of course, me wanting to keep the peace, begged David if he would just do this, and he said no. I then told him that I'm his ride, and he said he would just Uber home, and I told him no. So I just left my parents there and I left. I then cried in the car, and David told me that it's not my fault. While I was in the car, I texted my mom how she even knew that I was there, and that's when she said to me, "Oh, God is watching." And I asked again how she knew, and she said she would meet me at my house and tell me, and I said no, you will not meet me at my house. That's weird. Mom, how did you know I was at Disneyland? She then stopped messaging me, and my dad messaged me the following: "Listen, if you want to know how we knew you were there, you can talk to us in person. We brought peace and we tried to be loving, even though I knew David was doing stuff that he said he wouldn't do. I just want him to care for you as much as I do and your mother does, but you're gonna find out, honey, and it's gonna be really sad. He had every opportunity right there to confess his love for you and to ask us for space. We could have had a good discussion, but instead he was a coward and ran away. From here on out, you are not to come into my home. We can meet in public to talk about how we knew you were at Disneyland because we had every intention of telling you, and that was gonna be part of the conversation. I've never lied to you, and I never will. I do not have anything to hide. That conversation could have been great, and we're still willing to have it, but David sadly is not. I did nothing to him to deserve the treatment that we got from him, and I've never treated him in any way other than the way I would treat a good son, and I hope and pray that he doesn't do what I know he's going to do. Wolves come into the sheep and they separate the sheep from the flock, and then they devour the sheep. But the good shepherd will protect you. And if David ever was a sheep, he will listen to the voice of God, the people that love him and cherish him. Listen, I love you and I wish nothing but the best for you. If you want to talk, we are willing to talk to you about anything you want to know. I responded by saying, Dad, I don't expect him to be in love with me. That's way too soon. And if you don't want to hide the truth, just explain how you knew I was there. I will not be meeting in person for a conversation that can be had over text message. He then responded by saying, then don't meet with me. That is how it's going to come out because you need to see my demeanor and everything. And shame on you guys for trying to point the finger back at us. You guys are the ones that are not doing right and hiding things away. Literally every box that was checked for you to like David was erased by David. All the things that you liked about him are now gone, and it was by David's own hand. Listen, from now on, do whatever you want. I'm cutting this pain off. I mean it. Don't come by my house because we will not be able to support your drama any longer. You're gonna have to learn the hard way again. The only difference is now your mother and I are numb, and we don't feel anything. God will show you the truth, but I wanted to make sure you weren't hurt in the process. But after reading that, I honestly don't care if I don't meet with them or not. I can't handle the helicopter parenting anymore, and I feel that anytime I brought a boy around, my dad has to place himself in the middle by forcing the guy out. The guys that have been okay with it in the past end up not working out, all because of my fear that if my dad can control him now, my entire future will then just be controlled by him. If I don't do it their way, then I'm doing it wrong. I really like David, and he likes me. I'm 24 years old, and for once, I have a guy that doesn't run away from me, all because of my crazily super involved parents. I don't know what to do. What I'm seriously concerned about is how my parents followed me there and why. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update for us. Here's what they had to say. Okay, first of all, I decided I'm going to let myself settle for a few days. I'm going to agree to hear my parents out just to know how they got my location. As controlling as they are, I do still love them, and I can say with certainty they have always been honest. My dad said he will tell me how they found out I was there in person. Well, to fast forward things, I texted my dad and I told him in the next few days I would be willing to talk. He then told me that I need to find a new phone provider. So I think that cancels them out tracking me via phone provider, especially now since this is another attempt to control by using fear of cutting off a service that I can very easily get on my own. Also, in case anyone was wondering, I looked for any AirTags and I couldn't find anything. And he still refused to tell me how he tracked me unless I meet up with him, my mom, and our pastor from our church. So fast forward to present day and I decided to meet up with them. My pastor and his wife had my back 100%. My dad told me how they found me, and I guess I was still sharing my location with him on my phone through messages, even though he said that God revealed that he still had my location. My parents then drove to my house to see if my car was there. They saw David's car there as we did carpool to Disney, and then waited outside of Disneyland until we left. I told them that's freaking weird, and that makes me very uncomfortable, but they said they did it out of love because they were concerned. And basically, my pastor and his wife are 100% behind my back regarding dating who I want and not letting my parents decide what I do. I should have the opportunity to decide if I like the guy first, one-on-one, and then bring him to meet my parents. Now, it is a little different because we have all known David for years, but still, I have the right to decide when my parents will be involved. My dad did not like this, and he said he would leave the church and then block me on all of his social medias. He said he can't stand around and wait for my heart to get broken, and the whole time he was trashing on David. He called me a few names that were extremely hurtful, and I was glad to see the pastor had my back. Well, they told me I was no longer under his roof, and that I'm not doing anything wrong. The conversation then ended with my dad claiming he wants to go no contact, which I'm sure he won't follow through on. It sucks because I love my parents, but in my dad's eyes, if he can't control this aspect of my life, then I don't get to have him at all. And honestly, that's probably how it's going to be for quite a while. Wow, your parents are crazy. They tried to be like, oh yeah, God revealed to us where your location is. And by the way, that God is Verizon because they gave us your location. Sorry about that. It's like, what in the world are you talking about? Why not just be honest and be like, yeah, we use your phone to track you, instead of trying to reach into the heavens and be like, oh yeah, God showed us where you were. Because clearly they're just straight up lying to you. Like, this was clearly not some kind of divine intervention. This was your parents being creepy and then trying to justify it with religion. And that is so weird and disgusting. Like, this gives people who are religious a bad name. Because I'm sorry, but your God is not telling you to stalk your daughter. So no, you haven't done anything wrong, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with your stupid parents like this. And for the sake of you and David, I honestly hope your relationship works out, because your dad and your mom, but especially especially your dad, have absolutely no say in what you can and cannot do. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My parents are unbearably controlling about me and my relationship, with my dad even going as far as saying that my husband is going to break my heart. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, my parents are not the greatest. I live with my spouse, and my parents think he is going to break my heart. They won't tell me anything despite me asking, and my mother just claims that it's motherly intuition. My dad thinks my other half makes me into his housemaid and babysitter, and just to be clear, I am a stay-at-home wife because I have college classes, and we do split the chores and such around the apartment. My dad does claim to think that my other half underappreciates me, and that he doesn't do enough and that I do everything. He says it's based on what he sees when he comes to visit his and mom's house, and that my other half forgets to pick up after himself. Needless to say, my partner does clean up after himself, and he does do chores around the apartment, like deep cleaning the stovetop, the counters, sweeping, and Swiffering. He even helps with vacuuming as well. Now, I usually load the dishwasher, and he unloads the dishwasher. He'll load the washer and then change it to the dryer, and he puts it away. In fact, this guy that I married literally went out of his way and got me a $600 treadmill so that I could stay active. He also literally got me roller skates this year, while also getting me new headphones on my birthday last year. And he did this despite the fact that he knows I don't like to be spoiled. Now, a little bit of backstory on my parents. My dad had an awful alcoholic father who would do stuff in front of him, his sisters, and his one brother, and he moved back and forth between Texas his senior year of high school, and then he joined the military. Meanwhile, my mom had a dad who passed away in her senior year of high school, and her mother went off on her, so she began to drink and then stopped. When I was a kid, my dad would throw things. He would yell, he would spank me so hard until I cried, and it was seriously just so awful. They would also take my stuff and then say they're gonna break it if I didn't behave, and then they would get angry if I tried to talk to other people at school. So because of that, I didn't really have friends. Fast forward, and I eventually met my partner in 2020, not realizing at first that he would be my husband. We became friends, and then last year, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Neither of us are really the proposing type of people, so my dad got angry that he didn't ask him for his blessing. He didn't propose where he got down on one knee, because I don't need a fancy ring nor any kind of fancy romantic proposal. He knows that I'm not into that stuff. He came up with the idea to get married, and we were talking about tying the knot in 2026 when we had time. We found out that my insurance is kaput in 2024, so he decided to get married earlier. So I told him I didn't want to feel like I was digging for gold because I'm just marrying him earlier for health insurance, but even though it made me feel uneasy, he understood and we talked about it, and I felt a lot better. So we planned our wedding and got it done. Fast forward to my most recent visit to my parents' house, and they think he's going to break my heart. And I say this next part out loud in front of them with my significant other in the room, that if he wanted to break my heart, he would have done it a long time ago. Basically, my parents do not get along. I'm the therapist and the messenger, and their marriage is not great. It has a lot of issues. My mom has a male boss, and my dad can't work because of disabilities. So my dad thinks that my mom is having an affair, and my mom wishes my dad would stop breathing down her neck. Also, they tell me how I should live and my other half as well. And you know what? I feel like they're jealous. They wish that their only daughter was at their house, dependent on them, hearing about all of their issues all the time. These people don't even eat 3 proper meals a day. They eat breakfast and lunch, then they drink a smoothie for dinner. And honestly, the list goes on and on of how controlling my parents can truly be. Because right now, I'm seriously so done with their attitude towards me and my spouse, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your parents sound incredibly controlling. It seems like they have everything to say about you and your spouse, and they really are just making up all kinds of stupid things about you. And it's not even fair because you didn't even do anything. So truly, for you and your spouse's sake, I hope your parents are able to back off, or at the very least, you're able to find some kind of distance from these people, because the way they're acting is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for kicking my mom out of my wedding after she literally showed up uninvited? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I've been estranged from my mom for almost 3 years now. I cut contact with her after finding out she stole $10,000 from me, put me on $50,000 of debt by stealing my social security number. She has always been very emotionally awful towards me, and she has tried everything in her power to split up my husband and I before we even got married. Well, for these reasons and many more, I decided not to invite her to my destination wedding. Fast forward, and last week was the big day, and about an hour before the ceremony, my maid of honor lets me know that my mom had shown up uninvited, meaning that she flew across across the country to knowingly crash my wedding. I had my maid of honor bring her to the bridal suite, and then I spoke with her privately, and I told her that if she doesn't leave, I will make a scene and embarrass her in front of my entire family. Well, when I said that, she cried and gaslit me, but inevitably she ended up leaving. After the ceremony, several family members confronted me about it and told me that I'm in the wrong and that I should have just let her stay because she just wants to see her first daughter get married. I know this wasn't the reason and that it was just a power move to reinsert herself into my life, but her side of the family has been blowing up my phone ever since, telling me I'm wrong and that my husband and I need to apologize. So am I the jerk for kicking her out even though she flew to my wedding? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, and if she wants to play this game where she wants to pretend to be the victim, then in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would start spilling the beans on everything she's done. I would talk about how she stole $10,000 from me, I would talk about the $50,000 in debt, and then I would bring up the litany of other things she's done to offend me or at least make me not want to talk to her. Like, why should you have to put up with this? Because the argument anyone could say of like, oh yeah, but it's your mother, you have to respect her. Like, no you don't, that's crazy. The mom in this story does not sound like a stable individual. If anything, it sounds like someone who's crazy and out of her mind. So no, you didn't do anything wrong, and I think that you really did make the best choice, because the way your mom acted and the fact that she flew all the way out to you, in my opinion, is completely unhinged. Am I the jerk for not flying home twice in a month, all for my mother-in-law's birthday and anniversary? Because even though she's passed away, my husband demands that we still celebrate it accordingly. But at this point, I really do not know what to do. Okay, so my husband's mother passed away 3 years ago. She was diagnosed with cancer and unfortunately passed away within a year. Now for some background, we didn't have the best relationship as she was very traditional and would make very rude and offensive comments towards me. My husband and I have the same qualifications and jobs, but I was still expected to do everything around the house, such as cooking and cleaning and all this other stuff. So we were never very close. Regardless, obviously I was there for her and my husband after her diagnosis. When we found out she was terminally ill, we were about to start our summer holidays. We are both teachers and live in another country, which is about 3 hours away from his home city by plane. We canceled all of our summer plans and flew back to spend 7 weeks with his parents, just so we could help out as much as we could. When she passed away, we both got time off work to go back home again. My current issue is that my husband and his father don't think that I'm doing enough to honor her memory. The main issue is that her anniversary is coming up soon, which of course I will fly over for and attend. However, it is also her birthday in the same month, and I'm expected to fly over again for a family meal. This means that in 1 month, I have to fly to another country twice from Friday evening to Sunday. I can't get any holiday time because of my profession. It is expensive and exhausting, as it is the most tiring time of the year, and his home city is a 2-hour drive from the airport, so that's 10 hours of traveling in 1 weekend. I am more than happy for my husband to go back as often as he needs to. I've also suggested that we find a halfway point to meet, which has been shut down. I feel like I'm being guilt-tripped, and it makes me feel like the jerk, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk here, because what's being asked of you, in my opinion, is completely unreasonable. No one in their right mind should be expected to fly to another country twice in 1 month. And this is all coming out of your pocket, by the way. Like, you're the one that's gonna have to pay for it. And to do that twice in the same month, in my opinion, is just so weird and so unnecessary. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what he's asking of you, in my opinion, is completely unfair. Would I be the jerk if I tell my friend that I don't want to continue being roommates after our lease is up? Because right now she is really starting to offend me, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my friend have been friends for years, and we've lived together on and off in the course of our friendship with no issues. The last 2 years we've been living together after both of our awful marriages ended. So when we were looking for our place to live, she refused to walk through any of the properties with me. At one point, I thought she didn't even want to move in with me at all. So I started looking at apartments for 1 bedroom and ended up signing a lease for a 1-bedroom apartment. Well, she still wanted to move in with me, so the apartment upgraded us to a 3-bedroom instead. Now, I thought this wouldn't be a big deal, but when we got here, she demanded the main bedroom and she hated everything about the apartment. When it came to the main bedroom, I refused. I told her outright that it wasn't fair for her to try and take the main bedroom when I wasn't even charging her for a full half of the rent of the apartment. And I gave her the whole backside of the apartment because she has a child, and that child and her mother should have the rooms that are next to each other. She expected me to take the room next to her kid and share a bathroom with her kid instead of taking the room with its own bathroom, which is separated on the opposite side of the apartment. Now, Now that was early on, and we did work through those issues, although she still complains or makes snide remarks even to this day. Skipping forward 6 months ago, she got a new dog. Now I love animals and she already had cats to begin with. I don't own any pets myself, so I tend to give them all kinds of love. But now she's making snide comments about how I steal her animals from her, and it's so unnecessary and unprompted at times. Like she's been calling me the animal's second mommy for months, and now all of a sudden, she's upset that the animals like to sleep with me or even play or cuddle with me at all. I've also noticed the same jealousy in regards to how her child interacts with me too. I feel like I can't do anything right in my own house, and I've also noticed issues with her listening to my conversations on the phone. She'll bring up something I mentioned to my sister when I was on the phone with her randomly as if she was part of the conversation, but she definitely wasn't. So truly, will I be the jerk if I end our living arrangements when our lease is finally up? I totally get that she's a single mom and she's struggling with money, but I just can't live like this. I cannot live where I am constantly under secret competition with somebody else. What should I do? Okay, first of all, I don't think you should ever feel bad about ending your living arrangement because the way this lady is treating you, in my opinion, is unacceptable. There is no good excuse for her to be like this towards you. I don't care how crappy her life is or how badly things might be falling apart around her. That is no reason for her to treat you like garbage and basically treat you like the enemy. Because seriously, what have you done? You found an apartment for them and then you basically gave her a place to stay. Oh, and by the way, at a discounted rate than what she's ever had before. So in my opinion, I think you are well within your right to step away and be like, nope, I don't want to live with you anymore. Because her attitude, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My entitled boss gives us a new policy that absolutely makes no sense, forcing us to follow a script when helping out clients instead of meeting their needs specifically. So I decided to maliciously comply, which resulted in absolute chaos as one of our $1 million clients nearly backs out of our office, resulting in my boss being put in performance review and quite literally almost losing his job. Here's what happened. So I work in customer service for a company that provides specialized software to major players in the healthcare industry. Our clients aren't your average users. They're hospitals, clinics, and medical centers where downtime can have serious consequences. I've been with the company for 5 years and I know our software inside out, so I'm often able to troubleshoot unusual problems and get things back on track without any kind of hassle. But a few months ago, a new supervisor who we will call Alex joined our team. He was fresh from a corporate management program and came in with grand ideas about efficiency and productivity. In his mind, the solution to our slow response times was simple: a script-only policy. According to him, every client interaction needed to be scripted to prevent wasting time on unnecessary advice. No more custom solutions, no additional steps, no thinking outside the box. If a client's issue wasn't in the script, we were to log it, escalate it, and have them wait for a callback. When Alex announced the new policy, I raised my hand, explaining that most clients call us precisely because they're dealing with specific time-sensitive issues. Sticking rigidly to the script would just frustrate them, and in many cases fail to solve their problems entirely. But Alex didn't budge. He said to us, "Everyone follows the script, no exceptions." And he said this smiling in that overly confident way that made it clear he thought he was reinventing the wheel. "If even our biggest clients call, you better follow the script." Well, cut to about a couple of weeks later, and one morning I pick up a call and I'm greeted by the CEO of one of our top clients, a massive healthcare network we've worked with for years. They hold a multi-million-dollar contract with us, and losing them would be catastrophic. The CEO is calling in a panic because their entire system is down. The glitch they're dealing with is blocking patient records and diagnostics, putting patient care at risk. And this isn't just a technical issue, it's affecting people's health. As soon as he described the issue, I recognized the problem. It's a known bug with a straightforward 5-minute workaround, which is something I've handled a dozen times before. But here's the thing, the fix isn't in the script. I'm immediately torn. My instincts tell me to help him, to do my job and prevent a disaster. But Alex's strict orders echo in my head. Follow the script and there's no exceptions. If I help, I risk my job. If I don't, I risk this client's contract and possibly lives. So I decide to maliciously comply by doing exactly as Alex told me to do, knowing for a fact that this would blow up in his face incredibly quick. So I go through the script, step by painful step, and the CEO is losing patience incredibly fast. As I drone through basic troubleshooting steps he clearly doesn't need, he interrupts me, asking why I'm wasting his time. So I explain the policy. I say to him that I'm only allowed to offer solutions that are in our script. If this doesn't fix it, I can escalate the case and someone will call you back within 24 hours. He then goes completely silent and then suddenly says, "Escalate it right now." So I log the issue as required, escalate escalating it for some kind of callback. Within an hour, word spreads that Alex had been summoned to an emergency meeting with our department head. Apparently, the CEO of our client had gotten in touch with our company's leadership directly, and they were not mincing words. He demanded an explanation for the sudden drop in our service quality and straight up said he was going to take his business elsewhere. Rumor has it that he even said to us that if your idea of support is running through a script instead of fixing the problem, then we are done here. Well, by the end of the day, we all received an email titled Script Policy Update. It said to us that effective immediately, we were now encouraged to use our best judgment and to go off script as needed for high priority issues. Alex's entire efficiency plan was scrapped on the spot, and he's now under performance review. It's safe to say that he's lost any respect from our team, and I'm not sure his reputation will ever recover after that blunder. In the days that followed, the story of the client meltdown spread like wildfire through the office, growing more exaggerated with each telling. Some people claimed that the CEO was going to sue us, while others claimed that he'd hinted at buying a competitor. Regardless of the details, Alex's name became a kind of cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you put rigid policies above common sense. And as for me, well, I've been doing my job the way I always have, thinking on my feet, solving problems, and trusting my instincts. The difference now is that I have a little smirk every time I think about it, because after all, I was just following orders. Yeah, this is a classic case where the new manager doesn't know what they're doing, and they step in and literally ruin the entire process. Like seriously, this is so dumb. Why on earth would you be like, oh, you have to follow the script or you can't do anything else, sorry. And it's like, dude, you're about to lose a lot of money from this one client who clearly like bankrolls everybody's checks. And it's always the new managers that come into a company that's like well established, where they try to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna make some changes around here. And it almost never works out. Like if the company was falling apart and things were not going well, then sure, make some changes of some kind. But it's the fact that nothing was broken and this guy still felt the need to try and fix the entire office. Like that, in my opinion, is so weird and so stupid. So honestly, good for you for showing how dumb this new policy was, because Alex, in my opinion, absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom doesn't respect my boundaries, and it's now affecting my mental health and my relationship, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I need to say that I have a mother who doesn't respect my boundaries, and I just don't know what to do anymore. I moved to another country with my husband 3 years ago, and I haven't lived with my parents since I was 22 years old, but this is the first time I'm really far away, maybe about an 8-hour flight. I've never been good about setting boundaries with my parents, especially my mother, and I allowed her to play the role of best friend and mother simultaneously for many years, to the point where she intrudes on my adult life, my decisions, and even my relationship. I decided to go to a therapist for various reasons, one of which was to learn how to set boundaries. My psychologist told me that my mother was mistreating the trust I had given her, and at times was using that trust to manipulate and emotionally blackmail me. When I started setting boundaries with my parents, it was hard for them and even for me. The problem is that my mother doesn't respect those boundaries, and it's getting to the point where visiting my parents causes me anxiety. It's to the point that if I'm talking to my partner, she'll stand behind the door to listen, or if I play a voice message from a friend, she immediately comes to ask about the message and who it was from. She constantly interferes in my relationship, saying things like, well, maybe your husband isn't happy with you and doesn't know how to tell you, creating insecurities in me that over time and with my therapist's help, I realized were developed because of her comments. The thing is, she is a distrustful person, and even if you tell her that a store didn't have a very specific brand of detergent that she might be looking for, she will go to the store herself to check if that detergent really wasn't available. And I'm using this detergent as an example, but you could substitute it with almost anything. Now my father is sick, and I swear the situation is already unbearable for my mental health, and for my father's health as well. She keeps questioning everything the doctors say, even when she attends the consultations. She keeps telling me what I should say to the doctors whenever I'm there visiting my father and there's an appointment. I swear that I'm only here because of my father, because if he were healthy, I'd only come for 4 days, stay in a hotel, and that would be it. Finally, I don't even want my partner to come with me because I don't want him to witness these episodes with my mother, especially since he has a diagnosed depression, and these situations could affect his well-being. Of course, my mother doesn't understand this and keeps saying, it seems like your husband doesn't like us. I just don't know what to do anymore. Has anyone ever been through this situation? What should I do? Okay, for starters, I'm so sorry you're going through this, because your mom does sound incredibly intrusive. She's going out of her way to basically question everything you ever do, while also trying to boss you around. It's like she's obsessed with this weird control control that she has to have over every situation, from you to your marriage to her husband to the doctors. Like, the problem very clearly begins and ends with your mom. So seriously, I hope your dad gets better, and I hope your mom is able to back off in some kind of way, because the way she's acting would truly stress out just about anybody. I just quit my serving job with no notice, all because of the way these people have been treating me for several weeks now, and I'm honestly so glad to be away from them because their BS was absolutely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a full-time job elsewhere, but I picked up this waitressing gig at a local diner. I was only there for about a month and a half total, so I was relatively new when I quit as well. This was a nice place. It's been around for nearly a century and has only had 3 sets of owners in its existence. But these new owners, who are a husband and wife, are running this place to the ground, and it was obvious from day one for me. The husband used to work at my current full-time job, but he got fired for hiding bad parts. He also was a little too friendly and personal with us waitresses, and I decided I was staying the heck away from that guy. I'm not bad looking, and I knew he'd like me over some of the others, and I think his wife thought that he was going to cheat on her with me, because she has been known for taking that paranoia out on waitresses prior to me. But nothing ever happened because, again, I stayed the heck away. Now, I'm not a drinker, so I already knew I was not in the boys club, so I would never get promoted to bartender ever, all because I didn't drink with my bosses or my coworkers. I just strived to be a good waitress and make as much tip money as I could, all in the hopes of eventually working my way up to bartending. Other waitresses would show up whenever they felt like it, and then would just get lost and not attend their tables. And yet when I'm 1 minute late, or if I went to the bathroom before being seated without my knowledge, suddenly that's not okay. Besides that BS above, there was no real training. There were health code violations up the wazoo, and they can't even keep their staff, which are just 3 more red flags to add to the list. I chalked it up to the fact that, well, I haven't worked in a restaurant before, but I have worked in healthcare food service, so my standards must be way too high. I noticed people handling food without washing their hands, like they wouldn't even use gloves. And there were even waitresses making salads barehanded with fake nails on. And honestly, there was so much more besides that. Then it was the awful sections that I discovered I was deliberately being placed in, with prima donna customers who don't tip at all, or I get stuck with a table that's full of kids. Meanwhile, these other servers are getting all these 8 tops of wealthy tables and honestly really nice customers. Whereas with me, I was lucky to get 2 good tables in one night. I would also get chewed out for asking questions about the menu for people who were asking for some kind of custom order, and being somebody who doesn't take garbage from people after a certain point, I argue with the owners on occasion because they wouldn't listen to my questions, or they would automatically assume I was doing something wrong when seriously no drama was needed. I was as professional as I can be, but after the first argument, I noticed that inconsistent seating started for me, where my tables that could have given me good tips were being given to other servers higher in the pecking order. Then the other nights, I was overloaded with tables, and I was shamed in front of customers for not keeping up with bussing my own tables, when they could just hire a stupid busser, or give me time to keep up with the tables before seating 10 tables simultaneously, which I seriously don't know how many people can handle that normally, but I was barely keeping up. I offered to even come in just for bussing, but the wife shut that down and told me no. Also, the micromanagement is hardcore at this diner, and I was actually being told that I was a good waitress who was attentive to people's needs at tables, but I was clearly being set up to fail. I had just gotten a hold of the point of sale system, which was already confusing enough, and I was also chastised for not knowing where things are in the system, because again, it's confusing. I wasn't being treated fairly in my opinion, and I knew that my time there wasn't going to be long. I figured they were sneakily driving me out, but I'm normally a pretty stubborn person, so I stuck it out as long as I could. A couple weeks ago, I had to call in sick a couple of times because I was getting sick, as I do have an autoimmune disease that flares up. I was having a hard time walking. I had lumps in my throat, but I still had to work because I couldn't get into a clinic yet. The last night I worked, I was stuck cleaning the entire east dining room with no help again. I was crying from abdominal pain while also moving booths and the tables just to sweep things out, and it felt like an eternity that night because it hurt so bad. I went home almost an hour after my shift was officially done, and I told my husband what was going on. I had been overloaded with shifts without a day off, while also juggling a full-time job, and I was agonizing at the prospect of continuing to hustle when I was hurting so badly. My husband told me that he doesn't want me to go back because he doesn't want to see me miserable anymore, and I'd barely been home for the duration of my employment there, which does take a toll when you have a 10-month-old kid at home. So I had decided to do something I had never done before. I texted the owners that night saying I quit effective immediately. I didn't believe they deserved a 2 weeks notice because I was treated so horribly. I knew that place wasn't working out for me, and I didn't feel right serving tables being this sick. sick, which is what half the people there do, and they then get customers sick because they come in sick. I have never not given 2 weeks, but I'm sure I'm coming across as thin-skinned or as some kind of wimp, I don't know, but I knew I wasn't going back to that place. I went to the doctor the next day, and I found out I tested positive for mono, and the abdominal pain was from my liver and spleen swelling, and I'm still out sick right now, and it's been a week since I quit. But even still, I don't regret leaving. They already have hired 3 new waitresses because their turnover is so bad. They can definitely live without me because someone else can now deal with their BS. I am not putting up with it any longer because you know what? I could be successful somewhere else, especially if I'm dealing with much better management. Yes, this is the kind of story that I love to see. The original poster absolutely had every right to step away and be like, no, you're not getting a 2 weeks notice. From the micromanagement to the way these people treated you on a daily basis, these people deserve to be scrambling just a little bit to find a new whipping boy, which is exactly what you were in this story. You were just the scapegoat for all of their problems because they know they suck and they know they have nothing going for them, and yet here they are trying to like throw you under the bus. It's like, what is going on right now? This is so unfair. It's also crazy to me that the wife is trying to like imply that you're going to be the reason that her husband leaves her, but if he really is that kind of like piece of garbage, then it's not going to be because of you. You didn't do anything in this situation. That guy clearly has like no backbone. So honestly, I'm so glad you got out of that place because you do not deserve to be treated that way. Because any job that's going to micromanage you and try to put this type of pressure on you, in my opinion, is not a place that's worth working at in the slightest. My toxic managers never pay me or my coworkers on time, resulting in all of us losing our morale, as well as basically giving up on our job entirely. And after careful consideration, I'm now at the point where I need to find a new job because this kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, so every single fellow cashier at our shop front has been shockingly short and disrespectful to the customers that roam through the building. And this is evident from the plethora of bad reviews surrounding these employees' interactions. Unsurprisingly, I have gone from providing some level of customer service to slowly but surely reaching the state of mind as my fellow employees and no longer really smiling or going to any lengths to do more than the bare minimum. And so it got me wondering to why exactly these employees and myself are not motivated at all to provide any positive level of customer service. Some of the things I would say are the culprit is our boss's incessant ability to pay us late. It's gotten to the point now where we're all in separate group chats and we start to bet on whether he'll pay us on time or not. Our boss talks disrespectfully to us when we do anything to inconvenience him, even if it's not necessarily anything wrong. The overall process of sitting around a building full of loud people with screaming kids in a tourist-heavy place bothers most of the employees. The steps from taking a ravenous line of people's orders as the only cashier with only one cook is honestly just so exhausting, as you have to juggle assisting customers asking for more stuff after receiving their food already, inputting and sending out delivery orders, preparing trays of food from the kitchen and bringing them out, collecting reusable dishware, and leaving to the supply room mid-rush to grab more stuff, all results in an overstimulated work environment with never enough time to get anything done in a timely manner. From my experience, the whole style of the food hall's layout just creates way too much traffic flowing through it, and even if they aren't ordering from you, it's causing the cashier to always be on edge because you have no idea if that person staring at your menu for 10 minutes is actually going to order. There hasn't been one cashier that hasn't been incredibly short and rude to the customers, and I used to think they just hated the job, but realized after working here for a while that it's all just designed to influence the cashier to not be inclined to provide any reasonable amount of customer service. You're just flipping an iPad around non-stop and never getting a chance to connect with the customer. All the cashiers are leaving left and right, and even the kitchen is extremely toxic here, with a couple of cooks who hog 80% of the hours, and the remaining 20% are taken by a kid that is constantly disrespected by the main cooks because they think that they have some kind of seniority above him and don't have to do basic jobs like prepping the kitchen for his shift. So then he's scrambling as he comes in to get ready. In fact, he is no longer here for that reason. It's crazy to me that our boss is well aware of the reviews and his actions towards us, but literally just doesn't care and keeps paying us late. He's always micromanaging us, and he's interacting in a highly toxic manner when things don't go his way. Our place is special in the sense that we have the most negative reviews, with customers absolutely trashing the cashier's attitudes. It's almost comical in a sense. Now, it is sad that it's gotten to this point, but to be completely honest, after working the position, I've devolved to nearly the same persona, although I do fake it just enough to avoid mass reports regarding my behavior. Essentially, there's very little reason to go above and beyond to provide anything more than the absolute minimum towards customers, and even more reason to allow our frustrations to be seen due to the owner's own neglect towards our well-being. So honestly, I think now it's time to find another job. Yeah, that sounds like an awful place to work because I definitely know where you're coming from. I've worked jobs in the past where I've had managers who just don't care. They're super toxic, they micromanage you, and then they don't even pay you on time. And that last one, the not paying you on time part, that is something I will never accept, and it's something that you should never accept ever again either. Because they need to pay you on time. That is so crucial for ever retaining employees. Why on earth would I put in all this work for a job that I'm not even gonna get paid for on time? Like, do they not care that people have bills to pay and people have rent? Like, seriously, there's no excuse for that. That should really be your #1 priority. And the fact that these people are not doing that, in my opinion, is the absolute true mark of bad management. So yeah, I don't blame you for getting another job because these people suck, and you definitely should not have to work under these conditions. Am I the jerk for kicking my sister out of my house, all because she parties way too much and it's gotten to the point where it's starting to affect my daily life? Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been living with my sister, who we will call Hannah, for the last couple of months, all while she figures out her next steps after she moved out of our parents' house. Now, Hannah's always been a bit of a party girl, but since she started staying with me, it's like every other night she's out at some club or some rave. I don't mind that she likes to go out, but it's becoming a real problem. She'll come home super late, sometimes not even until the next morning, and she's really loud and bringing random people over and waking me up constantly. I've talked to her a few times, asking her to at least be more considerate, but nothing's changed. Plus, she's not really helping out with rent or the chores as much as she promised, so I feel like I'm just dealing with an absolute mess. And the only reason she's become basically addicted to going out is because she's finally 18 years old. But when I turned 18, the partying was moderate and at a mature level. But Hannah's is just crazy. Not to mention that she blows pretty much all of her money on these events. Last week, after yet another night of her stumbling in at dawn, I told her she needs to find somewhere else to stay if she can't chill on the party scene. Well, she then got very upset, saying I'm overreacting and trying to control her life. But I'm just honestly so over it. Our parents think I should be more understanding since she's going through a phase, but I feel like I have a right to some peace in my own place. So am I the jerk for kicking my sister out? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your sister is stumbling in at the crack of dawn after partying all night. She's going crazy with going to parties. And that's like, okay, you could do that every now and then, but for this to nearly be an everyday thing, like, no, that's not okay. That's not acceptable. And it's so funny to me that your parents are like, oh, she's just going through a phase. You need to be more understanding. What they're really saying is, please don't make her move out because she's going to come back to our house. And we don't want to put up with it, so please continue to put up with it. So no, you're not the jerk here for kicking her out or even implying that she needs to find somewhere else to live, because this is no way to live your life. And in my opinion, I think Hannah's taking it entirely too far. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.